embarrassment for the Net Zero Minister on his home turf. That's expected about 5 o'clock, and in a short while's time, I'll be joined by Nigel Farage to get his reaction, not only on last night's victories, but also on what was a disastrously dirty smear campaign put into operation by the Labour Party against the Reform head honcho. Got to ask the question, what is it about the Liberal left? They seem to play the man and not the ball. They tried it in America with Donald Trump. It failed. They tried it last night in Britain with Nigel Farage. It failed. They're out of ideas. Are they out of time? A huge, huge day in politics. Don't go anywhere. Let us know what you think about last night and today's events. Get in touch. gbnews.com/your say. Now it's your headlines on a wonderful show, and it's Aaron Armstrong.
Thanks very much, Martin. Good afternoon to you. It's just after 3 o'clock. Our top stories. Nigel Farage has described Reform's slender win in the Runcorn and Helsby by-election as phenomenal.
And I do hereby declare that Sarah Joanne Pochin is duly elected as a Member of Parliament for the Runcorn and Helsby constituency.
Sarah Pochin won by just 6 votes after a recount, overturning a huge Labour majority from the last general election to become Reform's first female MP. Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, says Labour's by-election defeat is disappointing and it illustrates his party has much more to do.
The results are disappointing, and I could stand here and say to you, opposition parties always do well in by-elections like this. It was very close in Runcorn, etc., etc. But what I want to say is my response is we get it. We were elected in last year to bring about change. That's what people desperately want. We started that work. The NHS waiting lists are down. Wages are up more than prices. Interest rates are down. But the message from these results, I think, is go further, go faster. That chimes with what I want to do.
Elsewhere, Reform has won full control of the Staffordshire and Lincolnshire County Councils and its first mayoral election in Greater Lincolnshire. It comes as ballots continue to be counted across the country. Meanwhile, Labour has won the North Tyneside, Doncaster and West of England mayoralties despite plummeting polls. Tory leader Kemi Badenoch has just issued her first public comment since the local elections yesterday amid mounting losses for her party. Taking to social media, she said, "I'm determined to win back trust." We mentioned some of those victories for Reform across the country. More still to come in as the day goes on. We're expecting Doncaster and Hull in the next hour or so. In the last hour, the Conservatives have just won back Cambridgeshire and Peterborough. That's a mayoral contest. They took that back from Labour. Paul Bristow taking that with a majority of more than 10,500 over Reform's Ryan Coogan. A rare positive day on a note of mounting losses for the Conservatives. Russell Brand has appeared before magistrates in London charged with rape and sexual assault. The comedian and actor is facing charges which relate to 4 separate women between 1999 and 2005, which he denies. He lives in the United States now, Mr Brand. He's posted on social media denying any wrongdoing and saying he looks forward to defending himself in court. The 44-year-old's been released on bail and he will appear at the Old Bailey later this month. NHS patients will be prescribed weight loss jabs at pharmacies as part of Britain's war on obesity. It's understood health officials are poised to announce trials to significantly widen access to the injections. They'll allow NHS patients to get the jabs directly from chemists after a short consultation. Currently, pharmacies are only offering such services to people who pay for a private prescription. Transgender women have been banned from competing in all levels of women's cricket with immediate effect. The change in policy by the governing body, the ECB, has been prompted by a Supreme Court ruling last month that said the legal definition of a woman is based on biological sex. It mirrors decisions made by the English and Scottish Football Associations earlier this week. Well, the ECB has said transgender women and girls can still continue playing in open and mixed cricket. The US Vice President says the war in Ukraine is not going to end any time soon. JD Vance made the comments in an interview with Fox News. He said the question facing the US administration now is how it can help Russia and Ukraine find middle ground to end the conflict that's been raging for more than 3 years. And Vance has praised Donald Trump's efforts.
I really don't believe that any person of the 8 billion people in the world, I don't think anybody could have gotten this deal done other than Donald J. Trump. When I say this deal, I mean getting these guys to actually propose a peace settlement, but it's going to be up to the Russians and the Ukrainians. Now that each side knows what the other's terms for peace are, it's going to be up to them to come to an agreement and stop this brutal, brutal conflict. It's not going anywhere, Brett. It's not going to end anytime soon.
Prince Harry's lost his Court of Appeal challenge over the downgrading of his security arrangements while in the UK. The Prince's taxpayer-funded protection was changed in 2020 after he stopped being a working royal. Harry appealed, with his lawyer arguing he had been singled out for different, unjustified and inferior treatment. And that is it for the moment. We'll be back with more a little bit later.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Welcome to the show, and what a show we have for you today. Labour's general election loveless landslide last night turned into a political earthquake. The reform revolution became real. The polls became reality, with Nigel Farage's outfit gaining a stunning by-election victory. Its first mayor, there could be another one in a short while in Hull, and control of its first set of councils. And again, those election results are still coming in throughout the show, but the nightmare might not end there. The nightmare on Downing Street could continue, because can Reform's former boxer and the Olympic medalist Luke Campbell deliver a knockout blow in the huge mayoral race, and we're expecting that result soon. But now let's speak to our political correspondent Catherine Forster. No, in fact, we've got Nigel Farage, the man of the moment, joining us from Durham. Nigel Farage, welcome to the show.
Labour, but if you vote Reform in the Midlands of the North, from now up until the general election, if you vote Reform, you get. And those messages are big and strong and clear, and they're my big takeaways from what's happened here over the course of the last 24 hours. For many of you, you won't have been in council office before, but remember, stick to our principles. And I would advise anybody who's working for Durham County Council on climate change initiatives or diversity, equity and inclusion or anything, or things they could go on working from home, I think you all better really be seeking alternative careers very, very quickly. We want to give council taxpayers better value for money, we want to reduce excessive expenditure, we want to find out who the long-term contracts are signed with and why, and reduce the scale of local government back to what it ought to be. Providing social care, providing SEND needs for kids. Oh, and I nearly forgot, mending potholes. Let me promise you, if you can mend the potholes, get the right technology, get the right contract, you will all be re-elected in 4 years' time. I've been on this political road for a very, very long time. But I do genuinely believe that what has happened yesterday, the length and breadth of England, is a truly historic landmark. And I have little doubt in my mind that the optimism of our voters, you met them out there on the street, they really believe in us, they want change, and they know they're not going to get change from Starmer or indeed for whoever the 6th or 7th or 8th leader of the Conservative Party in 10 years is. We are the agents of change, we are the agents of optimism, we are the ones unafraid to stand up for our principles, our belief in our nation, our absolute desire to protect our borders. And the number of people I met in the North just so enraged because they get up early in the morning, they go to work, they pay their taxes, and they see young men crossing the English Channel, being dumped into the north of England, getting everything for free, and then once they're given indefinite leave to remain, put to the top of the social housing list. It is unfair, it is irresponsible, it is wrong in every way, and I don't believe Starmer has got the guts to deal with it, but I tell you what, we at national level have got the guts to deal with it, and we will resist central government plonking scores, hundreds of these young men in these counties that we now control. I would also, I would attempt to speak to the major, they were major party political leaders. They're all in love with net zero. The Conservatives wrote it into law. Labour are now pursuing it with sort of religious fervour that Ed Miliband applies to it. And you and I both know that the Labour Party promised to reduce national bills by £300, when they've gone up £300, and that we now have the most expensive energy in the world because of lunatic net zero policies that are deindustrialising Britain. Let's be clear, we want to produce our own gas, our own oil, make our own steel, make our own copper wire. We want to reindustrialise Britain, reindustrialise the North, and give men and women well-paid, skilled jobs and a sense of pride in their community and what they do. And we can't do that from Durham County Council, but we can set the markers for how we intend to govern. You have cleared a very important hurdle today, and next year we'll clear those hurdles in the Welsh and Scottish parliamentary elections. And I believe, as I think you believe, we really will make history and win the next general election. Thank you.
That was Nigel Farage, Reform Party leader in County Durham, of course, one of the councils that the Reform Party has taken full control over. I'm joined now in the studio by our intrepid political editor, Chris Hope. Chris, you've been going on adrenaline and coffee all night, same as me. But look, let's bring our beautiful viewers up to speed on what has been a pretty seismic night in British politics. Let's start with the latest on the council situation, Chris Hope.
It's extraordinary. So as things stand, Reform UK are up 457 seats from zero. That was 9 out of 23 councils fully declared. Lib Dems up 75 to 185. That's good for them. Tories down 416 to 173. Independents down 57 to 21. Labour down 118 to 48. Greens up 24 to 45. But look at these names here. They've now won control. They are the biggest part. They've won control on Lancashire, Derbyshire, Durham, Staffordshire, Lincolnshire. The majorities are on Nottinghamshire and Kent. That is a lot of power surging towards this party that barely existed in its current form about a year ago. And Nigel Farage wasn't leader until 10 months ago. The blue wall, the red wall, is now a turquoise wall.
And interestingly, there's the first mayor, of course, in Andrea Jenkins. That happened in the middle of the night, around about 3 a.m. There's a count going on as we speak. Luke Campbell, the former Olympic boxer, the Commonwealth boxer, beg your pardon, he could be the mayoral candidate, the winner for Reform in Hull, and those votes still coming in. They're going up literally by the second.
Well, right now they're surging in a torrent, and we fully expected it. It'll be change as we go through the hour. As I say, 457 gains now for Reform UK. They are the huge winners. This is beyond the scale many of us thought. Now 464, so adding another 7 since I first started speaking. No one thought it was coming. It's a full-scale attack on the duopoly of parties that have run this country for 100 years by Nigel Farage's party.
And Chris Hope, the upper optimistic limits of Nigel Farage's vision were 500. We're already at 464, beg your pardon, and only 10 of 23 councils have fully written home. So this could be potentially 6, 7 or even 800.
Well, the Tories had talked of 700 losses, but no one saw them gain. What's happening here is Reform is gaining from Labour and the Tories.
Yeah.
Now, until when I last saw you, Martin, we saw Reform and the Tories as a battle for the voice of the right and pressure to come together and be that united version of the right against Labour. What these are showing to us is what Nigel Farage promised was happening, and here's the proof. They are taking support from Labour, not just the Tory party, and that's why it's a wake-up call. And earlier I did speak to Keir Starmer up in Luton, and I asked him if he was a coward for not campaigning in the Runcorn by-election. Don't forget, of course, Labour lost that by 6 votes, and here's what he told GBNews earlier.
It's not quite there yet. We're going to dig it out in a minute. But the reason you asked that question, of course, is because Nigel Farage, when he was interviewed immediately after that victory of Sarah Poachin, he said Sir Keir Starmer is a coward for not turning up.
It's a tough thing to say to any leader, but it was an attack, put in the words of Nigel Farage, are you a coward for not going along? Because 6 votes can go either way. I mean, why not campaign in Runcorn and Helsby? Clearly, he felt it was not best use of his time, but maybe it should have been.
OK, you put it to the Prime Minister early on, and here is his response.
The results are disappointing, and I could stand here and say to you, opposition parties always do well in by-elections like this. It was very close in Runcorn, etc., etc. But what I want to say is my response is we get it. We were elected in last year to bring about change. That's what people desperately want. We started that work. The NHS waiting lists are down. Wages are up more than prices. Interest rates are down. But the message from these results, I think, is go further, go faster. That chimes with what I want to do.
Go further, go faster. In which direction? A lot of left-wing Labour MPs are saying don't go towards where Reform is, go more left-wing. Stop trying to cut the benefits bill, for example. Why are you dealing with the aid budget? Why are you doing these things which look like they're pandering to Reform UK? I think it's a confusing message here from these votes to Keir Starmer. He's not sure which way to go. He looked a bit startled when I asked him that question. I was quoting the criticism from Nigel Farage. Of course, he's a leader, but why wasn't he there in Reform and Helsby? Maybe he might in Runcorn and Helsby. You may wish he was there now.
Chris, so excellent work. Go and get a sandwich and a cup of tea. I know you've been beavering away absolutely all night long. Chris Hope, the best in the business. Thank you very, very much for joining us and staying awake. Beautiful stuff. Now let's bring in now the peer and the former Labour MP, Lord Walney. Lord Walney, welcome to the show. Thank you for your company. It's always an absolute pleasure. Last night, Lord Walney felt to me with echoes of Brexit, a total rejection of the political status quo, ostensibly by the working classes. The Labour Party's loveless landslide turned into absolute quicksand. It was a nightmare night for the party. What positives, if any, can you take from it?
I suppose the only positive for the Labour Party are that these were local elections, and therefore it was a point where I guess many people were not completely focused on who they want to actually run their country, and lots of people would tend to stay at home in local elections anyway. But there is no doubt about the level of dissatisfaction that people have in the country with, I think, both the mainstream parties. And as Chris Hope was rightly saying there, that is what makes this so perilous for Labour and for the Conservatives. Because I think for many years now, you have seen an erosion in the faith in the faith that people have in the ability of their mainstream parties to change their lives. We have gone through the longest period of people not having an improvement in their living standards since the Napoleonic War. And people are absolutely fed up. And in those circumstances, you are more likely to turn to any other party that hasn't been remotely close to governing in recent years. And I think that is what you were seeing with Reform. Plus, Nigel Farage is clearly very adeptly voicing the frustrations that people in different parts of the country feel with issues like immigration and integration. So Labour, if it is to recover its ground, has got to take those issues seriously and prepared to do genuinely whatever it takes to make people's lives feel better economically and deal with those issues over integration.
Lord Daubney, is there something else to this? When the Labour Party were elected in, they offered hope, they offered change, optimism, turning the page of 14 years of chaos, but I couldn't help but be struck by the overridingly toxic, negative campaigning messaging that the Labour Party used, particularly against Nigel Farage. Can I call a couple of those up on screen now? Attacking Nigel Farage for his position here on the NHS, the cost of an appendix removal, £10,958 under Nigel Farage, £0 under Sir Keir Starmer. That's not based on fact. That's not based on any policy. That's based on speculation. There's another one here. And he's lying to you. This is from the Labour Party Central HQ press office and outside the Runcorn by-election last night. Anti-racism protesters screaming, refugees welcome here, with a clear message: if you vote for reform, you're a racist. Lord Daubney, when will the Liberal left realise that this kind of politics, playing the man, not playing the ball, it didn't work in America, it didn't stop Donald Trump, and it's not working in Britain. It won't stop the tide. In fact, if anything, it's making people more entrenched. Do you think the Labour Party needs a complete rethink of its communications?
Well, negative campaigning can work, but I think the difficulty or the mistake here with reform is to think that you can win an argument with Labour voters over an issue of what Farage's position historically has been on the NHS, and it isn't an untruth. There is evidence.
He's repeatedly said in this electoral cycle there'll be no charge, you'll be free at the point of view. This isn't true.
Well, it can be justified to point to what politicians have said in the past on Keystone issues, but where I think I'm agreeing with you that it was ineffective this time is because people weren't wanting to cast a vote for Nigel Farage's reform because they thought he was about to take control of the country, and they weren't particularly interested in what he may or may not have said about the NHS in the past. They like what he is saying on immigration, on the fiasco of boats still coming over and how difficult it is to stop that. They like what he is saying about the problems with integration in many parts of our country, particularly in northern towns. And they want to ensure that politicians who actually do have the ability to do something about this because they're in power, listen to them and take them seriously. And I think that is the message that Labour has to take from the set of elections, and they have to act on it.
Thank you for your time. Always a pleasure, Lord Daubney. Thank you for joining us today on GB News. Now, before we go, Chris, I hope you're flagging to me. We've got a breaking piece of news.
Well, you asked there how many seats might Reform UK win. Now, Sir John Curtis, the guru of elections and forecasting elections, he says right now Reform can end up with 800 councillors.
800 councillors. There we go. Breaking news. Thank you for bringing that to us, Chris Hope. I'll be speaking to Nigel Farage soon. But first, Prince Harry loses his security appeal despite arguing his life is at stake. I'm Martin Daubney on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
We have a royal invitation for you this Bank Holiday Monday.
It's VE Day. We're going to be here at Buckingham Palace from dawn till dusk and at street parties all across the country.
Join us for the pomp, the pageantry, the marches and the dramatic fly past.
A day when we can all feel proud to be British. VE Day all day Monday and throughout next week. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's News Channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Welcome back. It's 3:28 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, breaking news from earlier on this afternoon. Prince Harry has lost his Court of Appeal challenge of the downgrading of his security arrangements while in the UK. And the Prince's taxpayer-funded protection was changed in 2020, of course, after he stopped being a working royal. He had appealed, with his lawyer arguing that he was singled out for different, unjustified and inferior treatment. Well, join me now as GB News' royal correspondent, Cameron Walker. Cameron, welcome to the show. A huge and humiliating defeat here for Prince Harry.
Well, it is a humiliating defeat. It's also a bitter blow for him. He feels that he cannot keep his family safe when they're in the United Kingdom because the security was downgraded back in 2020 when he stood back as a working member of the royal family. Now, I think it's important to point out that when Prince Harry does come to the UK, his security is considered on a case-by-case basis. So he's not left without any Metropolitan Police security protection, but it's not automatic and it's not 24/7. And, of course, is paid for by the taxpayer, which is why he gives the Home Office 28 days notice before he comes back to the UK. Now, Prince Harry's lawyers obviously argued that he'd been singled out and that it was unfair treatment by the Home Office committee that decides the level of protections for a member of the royal family. But the judge today, Sir Geoffrey Voss, in his summary, says that although it was powerful and moving, what Prince Harry's lawyer argued, it was plain that the Duke of Sussex felt badly treated by the system. But he also went on to say, I concluded, having studied the detail of the extensive documentation, I could not say that the Duke's sense of grievance translated into a legal argument for the challenge to Ravik's decision. In other words, Prince Harry not being happy about the decision does not translate into it was unlawful. So what happens now? Well, he could ask permission to bring this case to the Supreme Court. We'll have to wait and see whether he's going to do that. We haven't heard from Prince Harry yet. Or, of course, he could wait to have another judicial review if there is a credible threat against him. There has been talk of perhaps Al-Qaeda was said in open court during this appeal decision was wanting to target him. But it also is the relationship between the King and Prince Harry, of course, because Prince Harry is suing His Majesty's government in His Majesty's court. So that's not doing any good things for the relationship between the King and his youngest son.
So, Cameron Walker, common sense might dictate this would be a good moment perhaps to bow out, to drop this and move on. Common sense seems to be a rare commodity in the Sussex household. Do you think there will be that appeal?
Well, Prince Harry is always pretty determined to do things if he thinks it's right, doesn't he? And he appears to... Money's no object to him when it comes to legal cases. As we've seen over the last few years, he has launched legal case after legal case after legal case. So I think we will have to wait and see. But that is the only other option to him. Or, as you say, Martin, he's just going to stay within the United States or only come back when he feels he will take the risk for himself. But what he won't do is take the risk for Meghan and indeed his two young children, Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet. Whether you like or hate Harry, he still legally remains fifth in line to the throne. His children are sixth and seventh in line to the throne, and only an Act of Parliament would be able to remove that. So from Prince Harry's perspective, he is still a target for those who want to do him harm. From the government's perspective, they will decide the level of security he gets on a case-by-case basis.
Cameron Walker, excellent summary as ever. May I say, looking resplendent in your summer blazer there. Thank you very much for joining us on the show. Thank you. Lots more still to come between now and 4 o'clock, including I'll be speaking to a pollster next as victorious Nigel Farage threatens to annihilate Westminster's two-party system. But first, here's your headlines with Aaron Armstrong.
Thanks very much. Good afternoon to you. Just after 3:30, our top stories. Nigel Farage has described Reform's slender win in the Runcorn and Helsby by-election as phenomenal.
And I do hereby declare that Sarah Joanne Pochin is duly elected as a Member of Parliament for the Runcorn and Helsby constituency.
Sarah Pochin won by just 6 votes after a recount, overturning a huge Labour majority from the last general election, and she becomes Reform's first female MP. The Tories came third in that race with more than 10,000 votes less. Reform has so far won full control of 4 county councils, 1 mayoral race, and is on course to win hundreds of local council seats across the elections as a whole. Its leader, Nigel Farage, says they're setting the markers on how they intend to govern.
The Labour Party promised to reduce national bills by £300 when they've gone up £300, and that we now have the most expensive energy in the world because of lunatic net zero policies that are deindustrialising Britain. Let's be clear, we want to produce our own gas, our own oil, make our own steel, make our own copper wire. We want to reindustrialise Britain, reindustrialise the North, and give men and women well-paid, skilled jobs and a sense of pride in their community and what they do. And we can't do that from Durham County Council, but we can set the markers for how we intend to govern. You have cleared a very important hurdle today.
So a successful day. Reform winning the Greater Lincolnshire mayoral race and, as I mentioned, taking full control of Durham, Staffordshire, Lincolnshire and Derbyshire county councils. Labour held on to its mayoral seats in Doncaster, North Tyneside and the west of England. Despite underwhelming polling, Reform were second in all 3 of those. The Conservatives have just won back the Cambridgeshire and Peterborough mayoral contest from Labour. So votes being counted at many local councils across the country. Labour and Conservatives clearly bracing themselves for disappointing results. Sir Keir Starmer says Labour's by-election defeat is disappointing. He says it illustrates how much more his party has to do.
The results are disappointing, and I could stand here and say to you, opposition parties always do well in by-elections like this. It was very close in Runcorn, etc., etc. But what I want to say is my response is we get it. We were elected in last year to bring about change. That's what people desperately want. We started that work. The NHS waiting lists are down. Wages are up more than prices. Interest rates are down. But the message from these results, I think, is go further, go faster. That chimes with what I want to do.
Prince Harry has lost his Court of Appeal challenge over the downgrading of his security arrangements while in the UK. The Prince's taxpayer-funded protection was changed in 2020 after he stopped being a working royal. He had appealed against that, with his lawyer arguing that he was singled out for unjust and inferior treatment. And NHS patients will be prescribed weight loss jabs at pharmacies as part of Britain's war on obesity. That's according to reports. It's understood health officials are poised to announce trials to significantly widen access to the revolutionary injections. They'll allow patients to get them directly from pharmacies. Currently, chemists are only offering such services to people who pay for a private prescription. Those are the headlines. More from me at around 4 o'clock.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Afternoon, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Yes, the weather is on the change for the weekend, but for most places, still a decent weekend. Not much rain around, many places seeing some sunny spells, but it will be a lot cooler. But it has been exceptionally warm this week. The warmth and humidity just sparking one or two isolated but heavy showers across parts of southern England. They'll fade through the evening. We'll keep some showery rain across northern and western Scotland as the winds start to switch direction, coming in more from the north, so bringing a cooler feel here. Still quite a warm night across the south. Could turn quite murky around some of the coasts in southwest England. Some mist and low cloud into parts of East Anglia too. It should steadily clear on Saturday morning. The showers, though, will continue to feed into northern Scotland, and as this wind continues to pick up from the north, that will be introducing ever colder feel to the day. A chilly start across the north coast of Northern Ireland too. Quite thick cloud across Northern Ireland. A few showers likely here. Still a lot of sunshine across England and Wales, but as I said, quite murky around some of the coasts in the southeast and East Anglia. And there will be some showers over the Channel Islands. Just the threat that these showers could just get into the far south of England at times, especially on Saturday morning. So there is the chance of a shower or two here. Certainly a few showers will feed into northeastern Scotland, and that breeze will bring a real chill here. But actually with some shelter, much of southern Scotland having a decent day. 15, 16, Edinburgh, Glasgow, that'll feel quite pleasant. And still in the south, we could get over 20 Celsius. So yes, nowhere near as warm as it has been, but still, for many, temperatures above average. Sunday will be colder still as that northerly wind really brings the cooler air more widely. Still a lot of fine and sunny weather across the west, a bit more cloud in the east with a few showers, and it really will feel quite fresh on some of those North Sea coasts, I suspect, where temperatures may not get out of single digits. But again, in the south and the west, we should get into the mid-teens. So a lot of dry weather, just a lot cooler.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Drivers should steer cautiously crossing the A9 Dornoch Bridge due to high winds. On the M6 2 westbound between junctions 24 and 22, an incident has caused 1 hour delays. Normal conditions are expected around 4:15 this afternoon. In Northamptonshire, the A14 eastbound between junctions 15 and 16 is congested with delays expected until late evening. Additionally, on the M25 clockwise between junction 31 and junction 1A, a broken down vehicle has closed one lane. Normal conditions are expected shortly. Stay safe on the roads, and for more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Welcome back. It's 20 to 4 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, Sir Keir Starmer has admitted the results of the local elections are disappointing. Well, Reform declare themselves as the main opposition party after their by-election victory in Runcorn. And the legendary pollster Sir John Curtis has even predicted in this past 20 minutes that Nigel Farage's outfit could end up with 800 seats across these elections as a whole, and that would smash even the most optimistic expectations. Well, let's get into that data now with the man who knows all about it. Data flows through his veins. I'm joined by the data scientist from Electoral Calculus, Marwan Riak, and I'm also still joined by GB News political editor Chris Hope. Well, he's desperate to go and have a sandwich. He's been up burning the midnight oil. Let's start with you, if we can, Marwan. So, Sir John Curtis, not a guy to throw figures out there without, understanding the true merit of them. 100 seats, an astonishing prediction. Let's just look at the latest scores on the doors if we can. Let's get a live feed. At present, 495 seats for Reform. Liberal Democrats 222, Conservatives 194, Independents 62, Labour 54, a grim night for the Labour Party. But it seems that the upper echelons of Reform's target is smashing even Nigel Farage's expectations.
This is well beyond any of the expectations of all the major pollsters. We'd include ourselves in that. We would have expected Reform to win between 400 and 500 seats, and with only about half of the councils having been declared, they've already reached that figure. So this bodes well for Reform. I just want to say a few things about the Conservatives and the Labour Party, if I may. So we obviously know that when these elections were last held, that was back when Boris Johnson was riding high. The Tories were polling in the high 40s. There wasn't really much opposition. And it was at a time when Keir Starmer was even considering his own position as Labour Party leader after losing Hartlepool. Fast forward 4 years, we now see that the Conservatives are in freefall. But Labour, starting from a pretty low bar, are doing even worse, which I think isn't being, I don't think is being discussed enough. Another point I want to talk about is Runcorn.
Yes.
Obviously, it was won by 6 votes, which I find astonishing, because if you had one household in the entire constituency who voted Reform last night and decided to change their mind and vote Labour instead, that would have changed the outcome. So it just shows you that every vote really does count in these by-elections. And in by-elections, there's no such thing as safe seats.
I wonder if that's even the case anywhere now, Marwan. We saw in the previous regime the Conservative Party were getting annihilated in previously safe seats such as North Shropshire. The discontent with the ruling party elect was such that there was no such thing as a safe seat. I get a sense now, and I wonder if you concur, that the dissatisfaction out there is off the Richter scale, a dissatisfaction I haven't felt myself since the days of Brexit, particularly a working class electorate who just feel that politicians don't listen, they won't do what they're told, they make decisions they cannot get their head around, they leave the borders wide open to illegal immigrants, they take winter fuel allowance off pensioners, they seem to exist in a parallel universe, an alternate reality. And people last night, I just think, said, enough of this already. They rejected all of the main political parties because they just don't seem to live in the real world.
No, and I think people are feeling the pinch as well when it comes to the highest tax burden since certainly in recent history. And lots of people, according to recent polling, feel dissatisfied with the quality of their local services.
Do you think, I wonder, that can we talk about Reform now as a party of government? Until really today, they've been a protest party, and we call them that. They've only got 5 MPs, but are they more than that?
I think this is the first time where we would call Reform I wouldn't call them a mainstream party, but they're certainly a serious party for contention of forming the next government. The fact is, if we look at their predecessors, the Brexit Party and UKIP, UKIP did pretty well around this time of the election cycle, but they were never serious contenders and they were always seen as a one-issue party. I think the issue that the Labour and the Conservative parties have is there's no necessary existential crisis for Reform. For UKIP, it was the Brexit vote.
Yes.
Once Brexit had been achieved, UKIP had no reason to exist. But there's no terminal event in the same way for Reform.
Well, actually, it's the opposite. This feels like the beginning of something rather than Brexit was a means to end. The Brexit Party, I was a Brexit Party MEP. We wanted to lose our jobs. We wanted it to be over. That was the point. It was get the thing over the finishing line and end this and make them do what the electorate, the 17.4 million people, told them. This, Chris Hope, to me, feels different. This feels like a revolt against the entire status quo with a view to building something to replace it.
And it may not work out, though. Look at the SDP back in 1981-82. They're on 42%. They go over the Tories on like 30%. All set towards the 83 election. And then Falklands War happened and Margaret Thatcher won her first majority or big majority. That's where I think there's a risk to this party. Can it deliver on the promise here? But look at that. 7 councils now controlled by them. Probably one mayoralty, maybe 2 mayoralties, a new MP.
And what councils do we have? Just to bring people up to speed who are joining us, Chris, which councils are Reform taking majority or control of?
They've won Lancashire, Derbyshire, Durham, Staffordshire, Lincolnshire, control in Nottinghamshire and Kent. Extraordinary. This is they're taking aim at the so-called red wall. It's now a turquoise wall.
OK, well, thanks for joining us. And let's go now to Reform UK leader Nigel Farage. He's been speaking to reporters. Let's take a listen.
Is this the end of two-party politics?
Two-party politics just died in front of our eyes. What happened here in County Durham and in Lancashire and in Runcorn and Helsby, really is, for the Labour Party, pretty cataclysmic. And what's happening to the Conservatives in the Shires is an apocalypse. I'm not even sure the Conservative Party can survive this in the long term. So, yeah, big day. And you know what? People vote for us because they want change. They are sick of the two-party system.
And what are their voters today who turned out for Reform, what are they going to get? We know a lot about your national plans. Give us an idea of what people in these councils can expect from Reform-led councils.
Scrutiny on how money's spent. Bring the auditors in. Look at where the money's going. End the work-from-home culture. End DEI. End spending money on climate change. Narrow the size of local government. Reduce the excessive expenditure of local government and get back to delivering the services that county councils are supposed to be for.
And just maybe lastly, after today, you've been a wee bit coy with these answers before, but after today, do you feel like you're ready? The next step is Prime Minister. Are you ready to be Prime Minister of Great Britain?
Well, that's not the next step. We've got to get through Scottish elections, we've got to get through Welsh elections. There are more hurdles to clear. But in answer to your question, why not?
Fantastic. Nigel Farage, thank you.
There you go, Chris. The two-party system just died before your eyes, Nigel Farage.
He told us on GB News on Wednesday he was going to destroy the Tory party. Few believed him. Well, look at this. And don't forget, there are 9 councils where elections haven't taken place this time. They're the ones where Farage thought he'd do better in. But if he's on course for 800 from the kind of second-tier councils where he wasn't expecting to do that well blimey, it could be the beginning of something huge.
And just to quickly bring up to date, Reform now at 498 council seats with 12 of 23 areas declaring. So, Marwan, react quickly if we could. This shows that at the moment it seems anything is possible.
Reform would definitely be the favourites to form the next government if the election were held tomorrow. So if we look at the Runcorn and Helsby by-election and we apply the swing in that seat nationwide, then Reform would have a majority of 200 seats.
OK, we have to leave it there. Thank you very much, Marwan, Riak and Chris Hope. Always a pleasure. Now, coming up next, Russell Brand has appeared in court. More on that next with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop star to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Now, NHS trusts are being told to prioritise ethnic minority applicants for interview shortlists, and they justify hiring white British candidates. Now, the official guidance says at least one BAME candidate must be shortlisted, even if white candidates are better qualified. And one NHS trust admitted using positive discrimination to decide who even gets an interview. Now, managers are also told to use race as a tiebreaker, and guess who wins in that case? And to explain themselves if the hire isn't from a minority background. Now, some won't even move forward unless it's a non-white candidate is in the mix altogether. Now, all this while NHS backlogs are hitting record highs. What a carry-on. Dr. Mukherjee, let's start with you. When you look at the naked truth here, there must be BAME candidates on shortlists. You have to justify hiring white British candidates, and a tiebreaker, a toss of the coin. If there's an ethnic minority and a white person, the job will be given to the ethnic minority. Do you think that's racist?
That is racist.
And it goes against the fundamentals of the NHS, which is about patient care and quality of care. And as a patient myself, I mean, I know I'm a doctor myself, but by all means, I pay taxes, and you all do as well. We want to get the best quality people serving us. We don't want to be paying money towards some sort of diversity hire just to tick a box. That doesn't serve the purpose. I don't think I would want to be, and I'm a person of colour myself, I don't think I would want to be a diversity hire. I think it's a bit of an insult, really, to think that of all the things I had to offer, the only thing that I have no control over, my skin colour, is what got me the job.
GB News.
This is Britain's newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Welcome back. It's 10 to 4 and it's been confirmed that Russell Brand is set to appear at the Old Bailey on the 30th of May, charged with rape and sexual assault. Let's get fully up to speed now with GB News' home and security editor, Mark White. Mark, what's the latest?
Well, as you can imagine, there was a lot of interest around this case this morning as Russell Brand appeared at Westminster Magistrates Court for his first court appearance since being charged. And he arrived at that court to a very significant press posse. There was barriers on both sides that were supposed to keep the press at bay, but it only takes one errant snapper to get in the way, and that's what happened. And then, of course, everybody rushes in fearing they'll miss the shot. So Russell Brand had a bit of sort of slow progress before he got into Westminster Magistrates Court for that hearing to face these serious charges of rape and sexual assault. He stood in the dock through the glass partition to confirm his name, his address and his date of birth. And then the charges were read out. They date from 1999 to 2005 and relate to 4 separate women. Allegations of rape and also allegations of sexual assault in Bournemouth and in London. Previously, Russell Brand has denied the allegations against him. Today, of course, he was not asked to enter a plea, but he will be back before the Crown Court this time, the Central Criminal Court, the Old Bailey to you and me, on the 30th of May. In the meantime, he was released on bail, went back out of Westminster Magistrates Court. It was a bit more restrained this time round. The photographers stayed in their place and allowed him to get unrestricted into his vehicle to head off.
Thank you, Mark White, for that summary. Still to come, is the two-party system dying? Has the reform revolution begun as more councils and mayoral results roll in? We'll bring you them fully live as they happen with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News, Britain's news channel. But before all of that, it's time for your wonderful weather.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Afternoon, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Yes, the weather is on the change for the weekend, but for most places, still a decent weekend. Not much rain around, many places seeing some sunny spells, but it will be a lot cooler. But it has been exceptionally warm this week. The warmth and humidity just sparking 1 or 2 isolated but heavy showers across parts of southern England. They'll fade through the evening. We'll keep some showery rain across northern and western Scotland as the winds start to switch direction, coming in more from the north, so bringing a cooler feel here. Still quite a warm night across the south. Could turn quite murky around some of the coasts in southwest England. Some mist and low cloud into parts of East Anglia too. It should steadily clear on Saturday morning. The showers, though, will continue to feed into northern Scotland, and as this wind continues to pick up from the north. That will be introducing ever colder feel to the day. A chilly start across the north coast of Northern Ireland too. Quite thick cloud across Northern Ireland. A few showers likely here. Still a lot of sunshine across England and Wales. But as I said, quite murky around some of the coasts in the southeast and East Anglia. And there will be some showers over the Channel Islands. Just the threat that these showers could just get into the far south of England at times, especially on Saturday morning. So there is the chance of a shower or two here. Certainly a few showers will feed into northeastern Scotland, and that breeze will bring a real chill here. But actually with some shelter, much of southern Scotland having a decent day. 15, 16, Edinburgh, Glasgow, that'll feel quite pleasant. And still in the south, we could get over 20 Celsius. So yes, nowhere near as warm as it has been, but still, for many, temperatures above average. Sunday will be colder still as that northerly wind really brings the cooler air more widely. Still a lot of fine and sunny weather across the west, a bit more cloud in the east with a few showers, and it really will feel quite fresh on some of those North Sea coasts, I suspect, where temperatures may not get out of single digits. But again, in the south and the west, we should get into the mid-teens. So a lot of dry weather, just a lot cooler.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. On the M62 westbound at junction 19, all lanes remain closed due to a collision, with normal conditions expected by 5:30 this evening. Motorists travelling the M62 westbound between junctions 24 and 22 should be prepared for delays of 1 hour due to a recent traffic incident. In Northamptonshire, congestion on the A14 eastbound between junction 15 and Catworth is causing delays of 30 minutes, anticipated to clear by 7 tonight. Caution is advised on the A9 Dornoch Bridge, where high winds are impacting driving conditions. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with sky roof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
We have a royal invitation for you this Bank Holiday Monday.
It's VE Day. We're going to be here at Buckingham Palace from dawn till dusk and at street parties all across the country.
Join us for the pomp, the pageantry, the marches and the dramatic fly past.
A day when we can all feel proud to be British. VE Day all day Monday and throughout next week. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
A very, very good afternoon to you on this beautiful Friday, it's 4 p.m. Welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News, broadcasting for you live from the heart of Westminster and all across the UK. On today's show, Labour's general election loveless landslide last night turned into a political earthquake. The reform revolution became real. The polling became real, with Nigel Farage's outfit gaining a stunning by-election victory, its first mayor, and control so far of 7 councils and counting. And as we're speaking, they've already reached their 500th councillor, and one top pollster, the legendary Sir John Curtis, said they could win as many as 800 seats. As Keir Starmer tells GB News, I get it, as he responds to that seismic by-election defeat.
Farage, I'm afraid, says you're a coward for not campaigning in Runcorn. Are you a coward?
Look, the results are disappointing.
But Sir Keir Starmer's nightmare on Downing Street might not end there, because at 5 p.m, Labour's Doncaster Council could turn turquoise in what's being called an existential moment for Ed Miliband, the net zero minister. Now, this will surely add fuel to the fire of a growing rebellion, with Labour MPs calling for Keir Starmer to reverse its disastrous winter fuel allowance cut. What a show! That's all coming in a short while. The two-party system is dead. It just died before our eyes. Those are the words of a victorious Nigel Farage as he toasted his by-election victory and a raft of council victories. But is that the case? Or is that wishful thinking? We've seen insurgent parties before. We've seen insurgent movements before. Is this one the same? Will it be a puff of smoke that will disappear? Or will this one have legs? Could it have a lasting legacy? I haven't seen political anger and dissatisfaction like this since the days of the Brexit referendum. But don't forget, Brexit was meant to be a single answer, a single question, a single movement to go once we exited. But this somehow feels different. It feels like it could be a rejection of the party system into something fresh and new. What do you think? Has this got legs, or will it burn out? Will Nigel Farage fall out with some of his troops, and could reform fizzle out into insignificance? Let me know your thoughts on the beginnings of what could be a political revolution by going to gbnews.com/your say. Full reactions to those results coming in throughout the rest of the show. But first, it's time for your news headlines, and here's Aaron Armstrong.
Thank you very much indeed, Martin. Good afternoon to you. Our top stories. Nigel Farage says a century of two-party politics as we know it is over. He was speaking on a day of overwhelmingly positive results for Reform UK in local elections across England, including victory in the Runcorn and Helsby by-election.
And I do hereby declare that Sarah Joanne Pochin is duly elected as a Member of Parliament for the Runcorn and Helsby constituency.
Sarah Pochin won by 6 votes after a recount, overturning a huge Labour majority from the last general election to become Reform's first female MP. The Conservatives came third in that race, more than 10,000 votes behind. Reform has taken control of multiple county councils today, a mayoralty, and is on course to win hundreds of local seats across the elections as a whole. Mr Farage says they're setting down markers on how they intend to govern.
That the Labour Party promised to reduce national bills by £300 when they've gone up £300, and that we now have the most expensive energy in the world because of lunatic net zero policies that are deindustrialising Britain. Let's be clear, we want to produce our own gas, our own oil, make our own steel, make our own copper wire. We want to reindustrialise Britain, reindustrialise the North, and give men and women well-paid, skilled jobs and a sense of pride in their community and what they do. And we can't do that from Durham County Council, but we can set the markers for how we intend to govern. You have cleared a very important hurdle today.
Well, Reform earlier won the Greater Lincolnshire mayoral race and has taken control, as I mentioned, of a number of county councils: Kent, Lancashire, Nottinghamshire, Durham, Staffordshire, Lincolnshire and Derbyshire so far. Labour managed to hold on to mayoral seats in Doncaster, North Tyneside and the west of England, despite underwhelming polling. Reform was second in all three of those. The Conservatives have won back Cambridgeshire and Peterborough, the mayoral contest there from Labour. Votes still being counted at many local councils across England, with Labour and the Conservatives bracing for disappointing results. Sir Keir Starmer says their by-election defeat illustrates how much more his party has to do.
The results are disappointing, and I could stand here and say to you, opposition parties always do well in by-elections like this. It was very close in Runcorn, etc., etc. But what I want to say is my response is we get it. We were elected in last year to bring about change. That's what people desperately want. We started that work. The NHS waiting lists are down. Wages are up more than prices. Interest rates are down. But the message from these results, I think, is go further, go faster. That chimes with what I want to do.
Prince Harry has lost his Court of Appeal challenge over the downgrading of his security arrangements while he's in the UK. The Prince's taxpayer-funded protection was changed in 2020 when he stopped being a working royal. Now he appealed. His lawyer had argued that he was singled out for different, unjustified and inferior treatment, but 3 judges at the Court of Appeal rejected this. We have just had a statement from the Home Office. I'll just give you the basics. It says it's pleased the court has found in the government's favour. The UK government's protective security system, it says, is rigorous and proportionate. More on that a little later. Russell Brand appeared before magistrates in London charged with rape and sexual assault. The comedian and actor is facing charges which relate to 4 separate women between 1999 and 2005. Mr. Brand, who lives in the United States now, posted on social media denying any wrongdoing and says he looks forward to defending himself in court. The 44-year-old has been released on bail. He will appear at the Old Bailey at the end of this month. Transgender women have been banned from competing in all levels of women's cricket with immediate effect. The change in policy by the sport's governing body has been prompted by a Supreme Court ruling last month that said the legal definition of a woman is based on biological sex. And the ECB's decision mirrors those made by the English and Scottish Football Associations earlier this week. The England and Wales Cricket Board has said this transgender women and girls still can continue playing in open and mixed cricket. Finally, a new picture showing a smiling Princess Charlotte's been released by Kensington Palace to mark her 10th birthday. The Princess of Wales took the photo during a visit to Cumbria earlier this year. It was published on her parents' social media with the caption, "Happy 10th birthday, Princess Charlotte." And we wish her a happy birthday too. Those are your latest GB News headlines. I'll be back with more at 4:30.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to news alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Aaron, and welcome to the show. Now, breaking news, Reform has just surpassed their 500th council seat as the turquoise revolution. The tidal wave seems to have begun. And the legendary pollster Sir John Curtice went even further. He's predicted that Nigel Farage's party could end up with 800 seats across these elections as a whole, and that would shatter the expectations even of Mr Farage. Live pictures on your screen there from East Yorkshire, because we're expecting the Mayor of Hull to be declared any moment now. And can Reform's former boxer Luke Campbell deliver a knockout blow to the political establishment and cause another surprise, leaving the mainstream parties reeling on the canvas? Well, I speak now in the studio with GB News reporter Adam Cherry. Adam, the results are flying in. The numbers are astonishing. What are the scores on the door?
Yeah, so actually it's 519 for Reform now, 261 for the Liberal Democrats. They've gained 107 seats. Conservatives 210, down 506 seats. Independents on 68, Labour 59, losing 132. That's with 14 of the 23 councils declared. So that number will continue to rise for Reform, I think, as Sir John Curtice has said. They're looking at about 800 in total, which is beyond what Reform were publicly saying they were hoping to get today. Nigel Farage said he was hoping for about 500. They've already surpassed that with, you know, another 10 or so councils to go.
Nigel Farage declaring the two-party system is dead in typically modest style. It's worth pointing out 7 councils now have swung to reform: Staffordshire, Lincolnshire, Durham, Lancashire, Nottinghamshire majority, Derbyshire full control, Kent looking like the biggest party, and we're still waiting, looking ahead to something which could be really seismic at 5 p.m. Doncaster. Of course, Doncaster associated with that man, Ed Miliband.
Ed Miliband, yeah, of course. Now, the Doncaster mayor, Ros Jones, did win, Labour mayor, by 698 votes, second place reform there. And already you're seeing, so she's saying, look, the reason this has happened is because of the winter fuel allowance, already sort of freelancing on policy, criticising her own party, trying to run this independent campaign, this local campaign. And I think you'll see more of that going forward. Now, you know, what happens to Ed Miliband? This is an interesting question, not just for him, but for other significant cabinet members. Yeah. OK, Wes Streeting, you know, in the general election, he was within 500 votes of losing, and now we're seeing that other big players are going to have to, you know, they'll be wiping the sweat from their brow a little bit. So what do they do? I mean, you know, the question you might start asking some of these cabinet ministers is, can you actually guarantee that you're going to stand in the seat you currently occupy at the next election, or are you going to do the chicken run where you try and find a safer constituency? But then the question also is, well, what is a safer seat at this point? It looks like if the two-party system is over, as Nigel Farage is saying, and indeed others are saying, there's no real option there either. Anything's at play.
Don't forget, Runcorn was a safe seat. Yeah. We saw in the previous government, Boris Johnson's government, North Shropshire, nobody thought that would turn away a true blue rural seat. It went to the Liberal Democrats. We seem to live, Adam Cherry, in a time of increasing political volatility. What I took away from this is a level of anger and dissatisfaction with the entire political system, which I haven't seen since the day, the high point of Brexit.
Yeah, I mean, and don't forget, obviously, the 2024 election result was really an anti-Conservative vote. Oh, let's give these guys a go. A lot of tactical voting, just get the Conservatives out. Now the new guys are in. Labour have been in for the last 10 months. It's actually very easy for voters to abandon them again because they never really cared about them personally anyway, and it's the same sort of problems, right? So, you know, that's what you see on the doorstep when you ask people how they're doing. They say, well, no different to the last lot. What was the you know, may as well get the last lot in or try these new options.
And there could be still more results coming in. Of course, the Hull election for the mayor there, Luke Campbell, that seems to be going through the final stage of the counts. We'll cross live to that as it happens. And also, all eyes on Doncaster, 5 p.m. That could be a true shockwave of this political earthquake that fell last night. Could reform not only park its tanks on Ed Miliband's lawn, but drive them through the town hall entrance. Astonishing times. Adam Cherry, excellent as ever. Thank you very, very much, my friend. I'm joined now by the Shadow Housing Minister, Paul Holmes. Paul, welcome to the show. There's no sugarcoating on this, Mr Holmes. It was a disastrous night for both of the big parties, but the Conservative Party paid a heavy toll. 510 seats lost by the Conservative Party, 520 gained by Reform. It was a bloodbath for the Blue Corner. My question is simple. Is it time to get rid of your leader, Kemi Badenoch?
Absolutely not. We had a historic defeat 10 months ago. We had to have a period of reckoning. Kemi Badenoch's now been leader for 6 months, and she's announced a huge policy review and a process where we will have to listen to the British public about what they want from us before the next general election. Look, it's a disappointing evening. We know that. It was a disappointing evening last night, a disappointing day today. But we have to remember the context, Martin, that the last time we contested these seats, we were at the height of our popularity under Boris and the vaccine bounce. We won seats that many people didn't expect us to win in 2021. The real story today is 10 months after a Labour majority of 178, Keir Starmer has been made the most unpopular Prime Minister in these results, because let's not forget, in 2021, the Labour Party were at their lowest ebb and they've lost seats. So this is not an overwhelming endorsement by the British people for Keir Starmer. In fact, it's a rejection. And, you know, people are talking about Kemi's leadership. I'm hearing stuff about Keir's leadership. So, you know, swings and roundabouts and all that, Martin.
And one crumb of comfort. Nottinghamshire is going through a count now. I'm hearing the Reform Party looks like the most likely to be the biggest controlling party in Nottinghamshire. But one island of blue, if you like, amidst this sea of turquoise is Newark. That man, Robert Jenrick, his patch seems to have stuck firm. Back to my previous question. In the storm that happened last night, Mr. Jenrick weathered it well. Would he not be a better choice for your leader?
No, because if you look around the country, we won Cambridgeshire and Peterborough as well with our excellent Paul Bristow, who's a great friend of mine. That's an area that's very different to Newark and outwardly looks in a kind of different politics to Newark. So if you have hard-working local Conservative MPs, you can manage to weather the storm. But look, we've lost a good number of Conservative councillors today and good Conservative administrations. The real test for reform will now be whether Nigel Farage, who says what he wants to try and get votes, can now actually govern in the interests of his local people. And I'm not sure that people will be found to be very pleased with him when reform is seen to be actually governing for people. But now, as I say, Kemi Badenoch...
Paul, don't you think it's fair to say, though, that the electorate have voted time and time again to take back control of borders, to ditch net zero, to lower taxes, to put British people first? The electorate has been telling both parties that in every single election since 2010. None of you have listened. So why are people not allowed to try something different? You say, oh, they won't deliver. The Conservatives didn't deliver. And now the Labour Party aren't either.
I'll never question the wisdom of the British people. Of course I wouldn't. That's democracy. But look, I think we made great progress under the last Conservative government. And let's not forget, Martin, that Keir Starmer promised to do a hell of a lot before the last general election, and you turned on everything. Taxes are up, immigration is up, small boats are up, and the economy is doing worse. So people are absolutely regretting voting Labour. But we now have a gap to fill. And as I said, Kemi Badenoch's been leader for just 6 months. It was going to be difficult, right? We had the most historic defeat that we've had in the history of the Conservative Party. After 6 months, I think, you know, from the historic high base, as I say, that we had in 2021, she needs to be given the time to formulate that agenda. My team as Shadow Local Government Minister is out there talking to the organisations and the British public to find out what went wrong for us, but also what we need to do going forward. And I know that we'll more than meet that match as the months and years come ahead.
OK, Paul Holmes, putting on a brave face there. Much appreciated. Thank you for coming on the show. Pleasure to have your company. Now, let's continue this conversation now from a Labour perspective. I'm joined by the former Labour Member of Parliament, Lloyd Russell-Moyle. Lloyd, a pleasure to have your company. Always great to see you. What's your takeaway from a set of results that really has left both of the big two parties reeling on the canvas?
Well, the Tories have been wiped out, haven't they, in large swathes of this country. But Labour can take no pride in this result either, because it shows that it has failed to put forward that alternative change message that it promised voters only a few months ago. And I think your political analysis is right to say that voters lent their vote a few months ago, but they weren't in love with Labour, and Labour needed to show them love, and it hasn't enough. But what I do think we should look at more closely is the turnout. Really what happened in the general election last year was Tories stayed at home and Labour people turned out. What's now happened is Labour people are staying at home in large numbers. The turnout is not great, but Conservatives have made the decision now. They've looked around and they've said that we're abandoning the Conservatives, we're going for reform full out. So Labour needs to not just mimic reform. It will not win by out-Faraging Farage. That is a loser's strategy. The only way it will win is by bringing back that coalition of progressives and traditional Labour voters, promising change, promising that we will make this country better and fairer.
Lloyd, that's been totally rejected. You have to smell the coffee. Look, you have to smell the coffee. That was totally rejected. There's no progressive alliance. That political mindset was on offer in Runcorn last night, one of the safest seats in Britain. Labour was wiped out by a party from a standing start. And as for out-Faraging Farage, when will Labour take control of the borders?
Well, the issue is that Labour has been bringing the borders back in control. The issue is Labour has been trying to do some stuff, but it has failed to communicate any positives, because all people hear about is disability cuts, they hear about winter fuel allowance, they hear about the nasty stuff Labour's done, and I'm afraid it was the wrong strategy to do that. We need to reverse those policy decisions, and we need to come with, yes, cutting waste in authorities. Those are good messages, but also spending fairly so we build up our economy again. Labour is the one that has stepped in to save our steel. Labour should be getting those benefits, but until Labour learns it cannot do nasty things to pensioners and disabled people, I'm afraid the messages will get lost.
Lloyd, many people watching the show will be nodding along with you there, because that was one of the things that kept coming out on the doorstep, as you know, in Runcorn. Punishing pensioners was a terrible policy decision. You and I have talked about this for many months, and there seems to be a growing backlash about that in the Labour Party. Is there any way the Labour Party will smell the coffee and reverse that, or are they just set in their ways now? They have to stick with it.
Well, I actually think if we get the economy working and we say, look, we had to do it temporarily to sort things out, to ease the jitters of the banks, because we know what happens when the banks get jitters. They punish the government even undemocratically and unfairly. That's how the banks work, I'm afraid. So we had to smooth the banks over. But we've done that now, and we're going to do an absolute U-turn on those policies, and we're going to give your winter fuel payments back as they were, no ifs and buts. I think voters will forgive us, and they'll say, we understand it was part of a strategy. But unless Labour come forward and say, we're going to reverse those things, we found now better ways of doing it, we've sorted the jitters of the market, and we found a way of taxing the very rich or the big companies and making sure small companies in this country can prosper. We reverse the national insurance hike. Those things, I think, actually will mean that people will come back to us. But we only have a short window to do it. And if we don't, we are going to really struggle.
Yeah, Lloyd Russell, I think you're right. It would be quite the U-turn. It wouldn't be the first one that Keir Starmer had done, but will he follow your advice? Always a pleasure to have your company, my friend. Thank you for joining us on the show, Lloyd Russell Moore. We just had live pictures on your screen there of the count in Hull, East Yorkshire, expecting the announcement of who will be the mayoral candidate, the winner in Hull. And we've got some breaking news for you now as well, and it's this: the King and Queen are to visit Canada at the end of this month, while his son Prince Harry loses his security appeal, despite arguing his life is at stake. Lots of royal news today, as well as political breaking stories with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
We have a royal invitation for you this Bank Holiday Monday.
It's VE Day. We're going to be here at Buckingham Palace from dawn till dusk, and at street parties all across the country.
Join us for the pomp, the pageantry, the marches, and the dramatic fly past.
A day when we can all feel proud to be British. VE Day all day Monday and throughout next week. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's News Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your-say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 4:25 on this Friday afternoon with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, lots of breaking news from the royal family today. And not only has Prince Harry lost his Court of Appeal challenge against the downgrading of his security arrangements, it's now been revealed in these past few moments that the King and Queen will visit Canada at the end of this month. And to bring us up to speed now, I'm joined by our royal correspondent, Cameron Walker. Cameron, why don't we start with this historic visit, the King and the Queen to Canada? Of course, Mark Carney, the new Premier there, and another foreign jaunt for the royals. Beautiful stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, Martin. A hugely historical moment, of course. It will be the first time King Charles has visited as head of state of Canada, but he is going specifically for the state opening of Parliament. And as you mentioned there, Mark Carney, the new Prime Minister of Canada, won the election arguably because he opposed Donald Trump, somebody who suggested that Canada could one day become the 51st state of the United States of America. So by King Charles going across to Canada as Canada's head of state, perhaps it sends a bit of a soft power message across the border into Washington, D.C. But yeah, that is the reason why King Charles is going, and Queen Camilla, to, King Charles to open up, to do the state opening of Parliament in Ottawa, the country's capital, 26th to the 27th of May. The last time a monarch physically was there for the state opening of Parliament in Canada was 1977, Martin, so it's incredibly rare indeed.
And the King and Queen there flying high, spreading the joy across the Commonwealth. Meanwhile, got to be said, bit of a crash landing for Prince Harry today, losing his Court of Appeal challenge. Will this go on, or will he call it a day this time?
Yeah, great segue there, Martin. Yes, so of course his security was downgraded when he stood back as a working member in 2020. He didn't like that, so he sued the UK government and lost the High Court case. He then appealed that decision, and this afternoon the judgment was handed down that actually the Court of Appeal and the High Court were correct in their decision to back up the Home Office, essentially, in their decision to downgrade his security. The judgment read out by Sir Geoffrey said, I've concluded that I cannot say that the Duke's sense of grievance translated into a legal argument for the challenge to the Home Office's decision. In other words, just because Prince Harry didn't like the decision doesn't necessarily mean that it is unlawful. So what happens now for Prince Harry? Well, he could choose to take it to the highest court in the land, the Supreme Court, or at least ask the Supreme Court to look at it. There's no guarantee that they will, but he could do. If there is more evidence that there is some sort of credible threat against Prince Harry, he could also launch a separate judicial review, but that could take years. But what it does show is the breakdown of the relationship between Prince Harry and his father, the King, because Harry is suing. He is suing the King's government in the King's courts. So we have heard from the Home Office actually in the last few hours as well, the last hour I should say, and they say we are pleased that the court has found in favour of the government's position in this case. The UK government's protective security system is rigorous and proportionate. It is our long-standing policy not to provide detailed information on those arrangements, as doing so could compromise their integrity and affect individuals' security. We have not heard yet from the Duke of Sussex himself. As soon as we do, Martin, I'll bring that straight to you.
Now, Cameron Walker, common sense would dictate perhaps it's time to call it a day, kiss and make up and stop going to war with the course. But common sense seems to be a commodity in scant amounts in the Sussex household. Do you think he'll give it up now, or will he keep pursuing this till the end of the earth?
Well, it's really tricky because he says he doesn't feel he can keep his family safe when they're in the United Kingdom because of his downgraded security. He has, of course, been back a few times in recent years himself. It's done on a case-by-case basis, the level of security he gets. He has to give the government 28 days notice before he comes back. He does pay for his own private security in the United States, but Prince Harry's argument is in the UK they can't carry firearms and they obviously don't have access to the MI5 secret intelligence that the Metropolitan Police do. So will we ever see Meghan Markle in the UK again? Will we see Prince Archie, Princess Elizabeth again? I'm not so sure if Prince Harry is so fundamentally scared that he cannot keep them safe. Of course, Home Office would argue that he is given the appropriate level of protection as and when it's required. But the fact remains, Martin, he's still 5th in line to the throne legally. His children are 6th and 7th in line to the throne. That's not going away without an act of Parliament to remove that status from him.
Cameron, what do you say to grizzled cynics that say, I don't know, this seems like wanting to have your cake and eat it? On the one hand, they don't really want to be fully part of the royal family anymore. They want to go to America. They want to go and make their own lives. On the other hand, they want all the trimmings, all the bells and whistles and all the lovely things that go with being a royal when they're back in Britain. This reeks of hypocrisy, some might say.
Well, that's the thing, Martin, because if you remember the Sandringham summit, when all of these negotiations were going on between Prince Harry, the late Queen, his brother William and Charles as well, there was a lot of, thrashing in those negotiations, and he was told in no uncertain terms, you cannot be half in, half out. He chose to be out and was shocked, he said in his memoir Spare, when his security was taken away, and perhaps the courtiers inside Buckingham Palace and the governments and, of course, the law courts have all said that was the appropriate course of action.
In, out, shake it all about. Just another day in the land of the Sussexes. Cameron Walker, excellent as ever. Thank you very much for joining me on the show. Now, there's more still to come between now and 5 o'clock, including we'll bring you more reaction to the local elections, including from Tory leader Kemi Badenoch, who seems to be out celebrating. But first, it's time for your latest news headlines, and here's Aaron Armstrong.
Martin, thank you very much indeed. Good afternoon to you. Our top stories. Nigel Farage, the Reform UK leader, has claimed the local elections mark the beginning of the end of the Conservative Party. He was speaking after sweeping victories for Reform across England, in which they have gained control of a string of councils, have secured their first mayor, and now have their first female MP, after Sarah Putchin won the Runcorn and Helsby by-election by 6 votes from Labour. And Mr Farage says the two-party system, as we've known it for over a century, is gone.
Two-party politics just died in front of our eyes. What happened here in County Durham and in Lancashire and in Runcorn and Helsby, really is, for the Labour Party, pretty cataclysmic. And what's happening with the Conservatives in the Shires is an apocalypse. I'm not even sure the Conservative Party can survive this in the long term. So, yeah, big day. And you know what? People vote for us because they want change. They are sick of the two-party system.
As you've been hearing, Prince Harry has lost his Court of Appeal challenge over the downgrading of his security arrangements while he's in the UK. The Prince's taxpayer-funded protection was altered in 2020 when he stopped being a working royal. Now, he appealed. His lawyer argued he was singled out for different, unjustified and inferior treatment. 3 judges at the Court of Appeal rejected this argument. And we will bring you more details on that as we go through the day here on GB News. Russell Brand has been granted bail after appearing at Westminster Magistrates Court charged with rape and sexual assault. The comedian and actor has been charged in connection with incidents involving 4 separate women between 1999 and 2005. Mr Brand, who now lives in the US, has denied all the charges. In a video posted on social media, back in April, Mr Brand said he'd never engaged in non-consensual activity and he looked forward to defending himself in court. Well, he will have the chance to do that later this month when he will return to the Old Bailey. It's understood he's being represented by the same defence lawyer who successfully defended the Hollywood actor Kevin Spacey against sex assault allegations in 2023. Transgender women will no longer be allowed to take part in women's and girls' cricket in England after a change in policy from the sport's governing body. The change was prompted by a UK Supreme Court ruling last month that said only biological and not trans women meet the definition of a woman under the equality laws. The ECB, the England and Wales Cricket Board, says transgender women and girls can still play in open and mixed cricket. Those are your headlines. More from me at around 5 o'clock.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Done. My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Just time to get you up to date with the markets. The pound buys you $1.33, 1.17 euros. The price of gold, £2,443.46 per ounce, and the FTSE 100 is at 8,613 points.
Done. My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Thank you, Aaron. Now the political stories keep rolling in. Let's cross live now to Hull, where the result of the Hull and East Riding mayoral race is expected any moment now. Let's listen in.
The total number of rejected ballot papers at the count is 196. So that brings an end to the East Riding element of the count. I believe they're now completed in Hull. And then the final stage of the process will be for Alan Menzies as the combined authority returning officer to collate the two results together from East Yorkshire and from Hull, and then Alan will be making a declaration of the overall result very shortly. Thank you very much.
So this being local elections, there's something of a confusion here. The returning officer there read out some data, but now he's calling the candidates. We are expecting the result to be imminent in this area. Earlier on, Richard Tice, the Deputy Leader of Reform UK, seemed pretty bullish about his party's chances of winning in this area. Their candidate, of course, Luke Campbell, former gold medal winning boxer. It's been a headline writer's dream. Will he wipe the floor with the opposition? Will he land a glove on the chin of the political establishment? The Tory party have been on the ropes throughout this campaign. Will he leave his opponents sprawled on the canvas? We're expecting that full count come in as another cameraman photobombs our camera there. We'll go back to that as and when those results come in. And we'll be back after this short break.
Afternoon, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Yes, the weather is on the change for the weekend, but for most places, still a decent weekend. Not much rain around, many places seeing some sunny spells, but it will be a lot cooler. But it has been exceptionally warm this week. The warmth and humidity just sparking one or two isolated but heavy showers across parts of southern England. They'll fade through the evening. We'll keep some showery rain across northern and western Scotland as the winds start to switch direction, coming in more from the north, so bringing a cooler feel here. Still quite a warm night across the south. Could turn quite murky around some of the coasts in southwest England. Some mist and low cloud into parts of East Anglia too. It should steadily clear on Saturday morning. The showers, though, will continue to feed into northern Scotland, and as this wind continues to pick up from the north, that will be introducing ever colder feel to the day. A chilly start across the north coast of Northern Ireland too. Quite thick cloud across Northern Ireland. A few showers likely here. Still a lot of sunshine across England and Wales, but as I said, quite murky around some of the coasts in the southeast and East Anglia. And there will be some showers over the Channel Islands. Just the threat that these showers could just get into the far south of England at times, especially on Saturday morning. So there is the chance of a shower or two here. Certainly a few showers will feed into northeastern Scotland, and that breeze will bring a real chill here. But actually with some shelter, much of southern Scotland having a decent day. 15, 16, Edinburgh, Glasgow, that'll feel quite pleasant. And still in the south, we could get over 20 Celsius. So yes, nowhere near as warm as it has been, but still, for many, temperatures above average. Sunday will be colder still as that northerly wind really brings the cooler air more widely. Still a lot of fine and sunny weather across the west, a bit more cloud in the east with a few showers, and it really will feel quite fresh on some of those North Sea coasts, I suspect, where temperatures may not get out of single digits. But again, in the south and the west, we should get into the mid-teens. So a lot of dry weather, just a lot cooler.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Travellers heading eastbound on the M3 in Surrey should be aware of a broken down vehicle between Junction 3 and Junction 2, with one of 4 lanes currently closed. On the M49 southbound in the city of Bristol, congestion between the junctions with the M4 and the M5 is causing delays of around 15 minutes. Additionally, on the M62 westbound between Junction 19 and the entry slip in Rochdale, a road traffic collision has resulted in all lanes being closed. Drivers travelling on the A9 Dornoch Bridge should proceed with caution due to high winds affecting driving conditions. For the most accurate and timely travel news, visit gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Welcome back. It's 20 to 5 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, Reform UK has reached over their 500th councillor as the turquoise tidal wave seems to have begun, and the pollster Sir John Curtis has even predicted that Nigel Farage's party could end up with as many as 800 seats across these elections as a whole when the counts are all through. And soon we're expecting the mayor of Hull to be declared any moment now. Can Reform's former boxer Luke Campbell deliver a knockout blow to the political establishment? Well, we can now speak with the former MP, Marco Longhi. Marco, welcome to the show. Of course, a former Conservative man yourself, you decided to jump ship to Nigel Farage's outfit. You must be thinking you made the right move now, looking at these astonishing set of results overnight.
Martin, you and I go back a while, don't we? You know that I've always been very frustrated by a Conservative
Marco,
party.
I have to momentarily interrupt you now because Kemi Badenoch, I believe, is speaking at an event
in 2021,
in Peterborough.
Just after the vaccine bounce, that the Labour Party won. The Labour Party didn't win here again. The Labour Party came third. Here in Peterborough, we won in every single ward. So, we've got a big job to do. I'm going to dual RA roads, I'm going to connect our 3 cities by faster trains, I'm going to build light rail in Cambridge, we're going to build a new community stadium for Peterborough United, and we're going to do all of this while keeping our taxes low. And do you know why I'm going to do it? It's because I've got a plan. I've got a manifesto, a 45-page manifesto setting out how exactly we're going to do it. Because a vision and ambition is nothing without a plan. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to show the rest of the country what Conservatives are going to be like in office, what a future Conservative government is going to be like. To tell you a little bit more about that, someone that I backed for leader of the Conservative Party, it's Kemi.
Here in Peterborough with Paul. We campaigned together many times. I've known this man well over 15 years. I knew he could do it, and you have done it. I know that the results across the country are pretty mixed. We've seen lots of disappointing results. What I saw everywhere I campaigned was that people are fed up with the Labour government. They were angry about winter fuel payments. They were angry about the jobs tax, but they are still not yet ready to trust us. We have a big job to do to rebuild trust with the public. That's the job that the Conservative Party has given me, and I'm going to make sure that we get ourselves back to the place where we are seen as the credible alternative to Labour. Across our country, we are seeing that our economy is not growing. Growth has halved. We are seeing taxes rising, unemployment is rising. We need to make sure that Keir Starmer is a one-term Prime Minister. And the election results that we are seeing show that he is on course to be a one-term Prime Minister. But we can't take things for granted. Protest parties are doing well today. I know that. It is disappointing. And I have a message for all of those Conservative councillors who lost their seats, how sincerely sorry I am for your loss, because I know how hard you worked. But we are going to win those seats back. That is my job now. We're going to make sure that your hard work was not in vain. Conservative councils did deliver better services for lower taxes across the board. Other parties may be winning now, but we are going to show, as with Paul here in Cambridgeshire, that we can deliver and that we are on course and recovering. Thank you.
OK, that was Kemi Badenoch there in Peterborough with the new mayor, I believe, of Cambridge. That was Paul Bristow. A pretty mixed set of results, said Kemi Badenoch. Pretty mixed. Well, if you look at Sir John Curtis, who's just announced, actually, it's the worst ever vote share for the Conservatives at any election ever, and the second worst for the Labour Party ever, equalling their low in 2009. That's pretty mixed. I'd like to know what a bad night is. Let's go back now to that man, former MP Marco Longi, had to so rudely cut off there before Kemi Badenoch spoke. Pretty mixed results, apparently, according to Kemi Badenoch. Pretty mixed. Marco, they were disastrous.
They're worse than disastrous. I mean, I'm so glad I made that decision, which, you know, was difficult, but at the same time very easy for me. You and I know each other, you know, and I know what my politics are, and how frustrated I was as a Conservative MP. And I know that there are several other Conservative MPs who have the sort of thinking that we all have, and they will be absolutely in a state of utter despair. I can promise you that right now. They've just come through the worst loss back in July from the parliamentary elections ever, and now they're just suffering this as well. And by now, you'd have thought that you would have seen a change, a bounce back, new leadership. But the opposite is happening. And, you know, I don't want to sound mean towards Kemi, but I just so hope that she carries on. But whoever will become the leader of the Conservative Party now, I think, has got a thankless task on, because the people of this country have made their decisions about both the Conservative and the Labour Party. That is absolutely crystal clear. And only Reform, with its challenge to the order, to the, you know, in terms of its clarity of message, the people it inspires, the pressures it puts on, as I was saying, on the old order, you know, there is no doubt. Reform now is the real opposition. And if you want change, you need a real opposition. And that's why Reform is here.
Marco, do you think there'll be a few Conservative MPs now, and perhaps, dare I say it, ministers, looking at the results last night and thinking, do you know what? The way the wind is blowing, perhaps I should follow the lead of Andrea Jenkins, who's just been elected a mayor in Lincolnshire. Perhaps I should follow the lead of Marco Longi. Might Tories look at this and think there's not much hope under this government? Perhaps the wiser thing to do might be to join Nigel Farage's Reform Party.
Well, of course, I'm sure if anybody decides to defect, that'll be something for Reform to consider very carefully, because I'm not sure that Reform would readily accept the applications from a number of MPs who, for all intents and purposes, are perhaps more at home in the Liberal Democrat Party. They have proven that over a number of years. I think if you listen to strong, patriotic Brexiteers like Andrea Jenkins, myself, And there are some others who've always pushed for the Conservative Party to change back to what its true original Conservative values and principles and policies were, then maybe we might look at that. But I see a very dim future for the Conservative Party, and I'm so happy I'm not there, because I can look in the eye of my Dudley former constituents, but friends who I have there now, and say, I know I did the right thing. And if I ever have a place in politics again, I know you know what you'll get from me.
I got attacked by a fly there, Mark Alonghi. Apologies for my outburst. A slip of the tongue there, mate. You called them your constituents. I think you'll be back. Mark Alonghi, pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you very, very much. Now, coming up, we're getting a former Lib Dem minister's reaction to the local election results next, hopefully without any flies. I'm Martin Daubney on GB News, Britain's News Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Britain's first gangster turned bishop says that Prince William has nicked my best ideas. I'm not joking. It's true. You can hear him laughing next to me now. Pastor Mick champions a one-stop shop for supporting rough sleepers. Tell GB News viewers a bit about your incredible story, how you started out and how you ended up as man of the cloth.
Yeah, so this was basically back from addiction, abuse as a child, mental health, and then into a life of crime, and spiralled down, and had a final stay in a psychiatric unit on a crack addict, and my life kind of built up from there. I've been clean off drugs and alcohol for 14 years, and it's been a really painful journey. Well, I find that, in the pain, if you look at the news now, there's so much pain for people, it's like... And I've managed to find out where the joy is in the pain, and that's what I try to do. I try to show people where the joy is in the pain, because if you love, it's going to hurt. And the measure of the pain is sometimes a measure of the love that you have for other people and inside yourself. So the book kind of tells the stories of people who've had a lot of pain, but yet they've come through, just like myself.
Let me just hold this up now. The book, Walk in My Shoes. Oh, that is on sale now, and it's got a message on the back. It's got royal approval. It's impossible to visit church on the street and not be deeply moved by the work the organisation does for those in need. His Royal Highness, the Prince of Wales. Of course, you've got a huge fan in Prince William. He's been to visit you.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
So it's 4:52, and Reform UK has reached its 500th councillor as the Turquoise Revolution seems to have begun. But it's also been a great night and day for the Liberal Democrats. I'm joined now by the former Minister, Norman Baker. Norman, welcome to the show. So the Yellow team have been doing what they do very well, quietly hoovering up seats.
We have. No flies on me, Martin, or on the Lib Dems, I'm happy to say. Yes, I mean, look, we've had a great night. We've come second so far. I think we'll do even better because some of our best prospects have not yet declared. There's a real possibility we'll take hold of Shropshire Council, Cambridgeshire Council, and even possibly Oxfordshire Council. They're looking pretty good. I think what the story is, looking at it neutrally, is that this is a rejection of the two-party politics that we've had in this country for so long. People don't want to vote Labour. They're not happy with what the government's doing. They've wasted their majority, let's face it. They've done nothing in 9 months, really, that people are very happy about. And the Conservatives have still got this memory of the disasters of 9 years from 2015 to 2024, when the Tories just made a mess of everything and Kemi's not cutting it. So they're looking somewhere else. And, you know, they're looking to Reform in many cases, and they're looking to the Lib Dems in other cases. And, of course, the Lib Dems and Reform don't have very much in common. So what they do have in common is they're not any of the above in terms of Labour and Tory. But we are doing really well, and I think that's an important message to give. The Greens are doing well as well, by the way, and they're in danger of overtaking Labour in terms of number of seats.
You're absolutely right. I mean, the Liberal Democrats are second, as you say, on 298, about to go to that 300 barrier, putting on 118 seats. Tories losing 530, Labour down 148. And to echo your point, Norman Baker, the Greens on 65, up 35. A solid performance from the Lib Dems, as ever, quietly doing what they do and nibbling away from those votes in the Conservatives, who are caught in that pincer movement, of course, between the Red Wall reformers and the Lib Dems in the Shires. Norman Baker, always a pleasure. Certainly no flies on you. Thanks for joining us on the show today. Absolute delight. Now, the big question is the two-party system dying? Has the reform revolution begun? As more council and mayoral results roll in Hull and riding for the mayoralty, and on Ed Miliband's patch, could Doncaster fall to the Reform Party? That's next with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News. But first, your weather.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Afternoon, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Yes, the weather is on the change for the weekend, but for most places, still a decent weekend. Not much rain around, many places seeing some sunny spells, but it will be a lot cooler. But it has been exceptionally warm this week. The warmth and humidity just sparking one or two isolated but heavy showers across parts of southern England. They'll fade through the evening. We'll keep some showery rain across northern and western Scotland as the winds start to switch direction, coming in more from the north, so bringing a cooler feel here. Still quite a warm night across the south. Could turn quite murky around some of the coasts in southwest England. Some mist and low cloud into parts of East Anglia too. It should steadily clear on Saturday morning. The showers, though, will continue to feed into northern Scotland, and as this wind continues to pick up from the north, that will be introducing ever colder feel to the day. A chilly start across the north coast of Northern Ireland too. Quite thick cloud across Northern Ireland. A few showers likely here. Still a lot of sunshine across England and Wales, but as I said, quite murky around some of the coasts in the southeast and East Anglia. And there will be some showers over the Channel Islands. Just the threat that these showers could just get into the far south of England at times, especially on Saturday morning. So there is the chance of a shower or two here. Certainly a few showers will feed into northeastern Scotland, and that breeze will bring a real chill here. But actually with some shelter, much of southern Scotland having a decent day. 15, 16, Edinburgh, Glasgow, that'll feel quite pleasant. And still in the south, we could get over 20 Celsius. So yes, nowhere near as warm as it has been, but still, for many, temperatures above average. Sunday will be colder still as that northerly wind really brings the cooler air more widely. Still a lot of fine and sunny weather across the west, a bit more cloud in the east with a few showers, and it really will feel quite fresh on some of those North Sea coasts, I suspect, where temperatures may not get out of single digits. But again, in the south and the west, we should get into the mid-teens. So a lot of dry weather, just a lot cooler.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Road users are urged to exercise caution on the A9 Dornoch Bridge as high winds continue to affect driving conditions. In Essex, a collision on the M11 northbound between Junction 8A and Junction 10 has resulted in one-lane closure. Motorists are advised to stay up to date at gbnews.com for more travel news.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with sky roof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
We have a royal invitation for you this Bank Holiday Monday.
It's VE Day. We're going to be here at Buckingham Palace from dawn till dusk, and at street parties all across the country.
Join us for the pomp, the pageantry, the marches, and the dramatic fly-past.
A day when we can all feel proud to be British. VE Day, all day Monday and throughout next week. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Very, very good afternoon to you. It's 5 p.m. on this wonderful Friday afternoon, and welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News. We're broadcasting for you live from the heart of Westminster and all across the UK. On today's show, any moment now, we're expecting to hear the results of the Hull and East Riding mayoral election. Can Reform's former boxer and Olympic medalist Luke Campbell deliver a knockout blow? Will he lay a glove on Keir Starmer, and could he put Kemi on the canvas? And Labour's general election loveless landslide last night turned into a political earthquake. The Reform revolution became real. The polling became reality, with Nigel Farage's outfit gaining a stunning by-election victory, its first mayor perhaps, followed by a second, and control so far of 7 councils. And they've already reached over their 500th councillor. And one top pollster, the legendary Sir Ian Curtis, he reckons they could win as many as 800 seats. And actually, let's cross live now to Hull, where the result of the Hull and East Riding mayoral race is expected any moment. Let's listen in.
This is the declaration in relation to the Hull and East Yorkshire combined authority mayoral election. It's the notice of result of the final count. I, Alan Menzies, as the combined authority returning officer, appointed at the election for the Hull and East Yorkshire combined authority mayor on the 1st of May 2025, hereby certify that the total number of valid votes cast for each of the candidates is as follows. Campbell Luke, Reform UK, 48,491. Alfred Rowan Adam, commonly known as Rowan, Yorkshire Party, 4,372. Handley Anne, Conservative Party candidate, 21,393. Harrison Kerry Elizabeth, commonly known as Kerry, Green Party, 5,049. Pinder Margaret Elaine, Labour and Cooperative Party. Ross Michael James, commonly known as Mike, Liberal Democrats, 37,510.
and I declare that the said Luke Campbell is duly elected as the Mayor of Hull and East Yorkshire Combined Authority. The total number of rejected ballot papers at the count was 317. The final statement of rejected ballot papers is as follows. For want of an official mark, 0 rejected. Voting for more candidates than the voter was entitled to, 66. Writing or mark by which the voter could be identified, 3. Being unmarked or wholly void for uncertainty, 248, and that totals the 317 votes. And with that, thank you all very much, and I would like to hand over to Luke if he would like to say a few words.
Thank you so much for the people of Hull and East Yorkshire for putting your trust and faith in me. I am truly humbled and honoured to have been elected to represent you. The reason I stood for this role was simple, to put the people first in this region. That commitment starts now. I promise I will not let you down. To everyone who voted for me and Reform UK, thank you. And for those who didn't, I ask you to give me a chance. I will work hard to earn your trust and do right by every single person in this community, no matter who they voted for. This result wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for the incredible support from my team, to Robin, our amazing branch managers and volunteers, Susan, Brendan, Aaron, Rich, Becky, and so many more. Thank you. Your belief and energy and commitment meant everything. Thank you. The people of Hull and East Yorkshire have spoken, and now it's time to deliver. I'll be hitting the ground running from Tuesday, meetings already in process to get started. I've always said all the way through my career that I'd like my actions to speak louder than my words. And you'll see that in me. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, and there we have it. That is Luke Campbell, the newly elected Mayor for the Reform Party for Hull and East Riding. Came in hugely ahead. And a quick bit about this gentleman, Luke Campbell. I've had the pleasure of meeting him. He came down to GB News a few weeks ago. He's 37 years of age, a former professional boxer, lifelong resident of the area. 0 political experience, but very well known, very well liked, and I guess in keeping with part of the policy of Reform UK. Chris Hope, our political editor, joins me. This is people who've been successful in other areas of life, of business, clearly a winner, but with 0 political experience. This is quite a big job. This is quite a big step up. But even for a boxer, this could be the biggest fight of his career.
Well, you got there eventually. No, absolutely. But he knows his local people. He's of them. He speaks to them. He speaks their language. Olympic gold in 2012 in the bantamweight boxing division. Give me a chance, he said, rather humbly. I thought that was moving. Got an MBE from the Queen in 2013. Look at those numbers, though. So he won with 48,491, Luke Campbell. Second was Mike Ross, not the Conservative. Mike Ross, who's the Liberal Democrat candidate, 37,510. Then the Tories, Anne Handley, 21,393. Then Labour in 4th place, Margaret Pinder, 18,568. Then Kerry Howson of the Greens on over 5,000. And Rowan Halstead of the Yorkshire Party, 4,372. So fascinating here, a clear win for Reform UK, their second mayoralty after Dame Andrea Jenkin, and how they got very, very close, of course, in some of the others declared today. We are seeing new people emerge on the scene. Reform won't mind. These people have been vetted, we are told, by Reform UK. I know that of the 1,600 candidates who stood by Reform UK, another 600 were turned down down by Reform UK as not being appropriate. They weren't vetted fully. They couldn't get through vetting. That's why I think there's a chance here this party may try and put some proper kind of clause into the establishment.
Do you think, Chris Hope, there's an issue? It's great. So let's say we want people who aren't politicians because the public are rejecting the political class. But if you've got somebody who has no political experience whatsoever, it's quite a challenge.
And a risk, Martin.
Yeah, for the party and for him as an individual. But no, Vladimir Zelensky was a comedian before he went into politics. The leader of Italy's populist movement, the Five Star Party, he was a comedian before they started. Does it matter that people aren't politicians, or actually do people want people who aren't born and bred politicians who've never done a real job in their lives?
I was also struck by the calibre of people who Farage found for the Brexit party back in 2019, and they stood many of them down at that election campaign towards the end of that year to do a deal with Boris Johnson to get Brexit done, and that's history, of course. But I think that when he finds you are people out there who want to be involved in politics, who aren't part of the party machines. If they see a way in through reform, they could do quite well. It's risky, though.
And, you know, he's talking some of his policies in advance. He said he would cut out waste and improve accountability in council spending. Chris Hope, that's been a common theme in the aftermath. A Doge-style audit to save money on councils. He wants to fix public transport. He wants more government investment in the area. We deserve more than £13.1 million a year. He says he wants young people to have access to high-quality jobs. He's pledging to attract investment into the area using his personality and publicity. So he's talking a good fight, but can he actually deliver?
Well, that's right. And has Farage got it in him to look after all the 7 councils he now controls, 2 mayoralties, a new MP? Has he got the resource in him to do it? Because it is so much pressure on him as one man. Has he got the systems in place that Rupert Lowe complained about, I think with reason, by the way, before he quit the party in that row with Nigel Farage? I should say also, by the way, that the Tories have now lost 542 seats. That is more than their spokesman, Kevin Hollingrake, told the BBC it would be a disaster. They've gone beyond the word disaster, the Tory party.
And Sir John Curtis, who's been blogging on this throughout, and is the unsurpassable Sir John Curtis, he said that the Labour Party has equalled its worst projected national share ever, equalled only in 2009. The Tories have scored the party's lowest turnout ever in history.
And perhaps crucially, I think, for what is happening here, the Tories and Labour have less than 50% of the vote for the first time ever. That's extraordinary. And the projected numbers from Curtis give Reform UK 30%, Labour 20%, Lib Dem 17%, Tories 15%. So Reform are on twice as many on the vote share as Reform UK. Quite extraordinary, not what we forecast or saw coming. And don't forget, there are 9 council areas that are not included in the ballots. According to Nigel Farage, and we have to take his word for it, they would have done quite well there too. These are not the seats they're meant to do that well in.
And actually, in these past few minutes, Sir John Curtis has just conducted the first national vote share poll for Great Britain. And for the first time, Reform UK has gone to 30%. 30% Reform, 20% Labour Party, 17% Liberal Democrats. In 4th place, Chris Hope, the Conservatives, on 15.
Half the level.
Half the level. So this is potentially the breakthrough. Of course, it's just a set of council elections. There's still opportunities there not for the wheels to come off.
Totally. And look back at the SDP a long time ago, back in the early 80s. They're on 42% of vote share. Well, 10 points ahead of Tories and much more than the Labour. I mean, under Michael Foot at the time, and the party went to the left, although that could be an answer that the left might argue for. But certainly I think that the SDP didn't get through at the election in 83, and there's no reason... there's a long time left in this government. There's at least 4 years before an election must be called by the Labour Party. So, yes, it's dramatic. Yes, it's a wake-up call 10 months into this new Labour government, but it's not over by any sense.
And the upsets could continue because Doncaster Council is set to declare, perhaps in this next hour, Ed Miliband's patch. And if the Reform Party take over that council there, it's not only parking their tanks on Labour's lawn, it's driving them into the town hall.
And what this means is these are support networks. Once you've got a lot of councillors, you can drill down into an area, get your claws into that area, deliver for local people, become your local councillor, maybe easing parking charges, doing things that matter to local people, filling the potholes, doing better than the last lot who came in. And that's why it matters. And I think also, just briefly looking at Runcorn, feels like a lifetime ago, but Runcorn is interesting because how many times have Reform UK or one of Farage's previous parties got near to beating the incumbent and never quite sealed the deal? And they have done in Runcorn a big cut through there because they have a problem with data. They're good at the air war, they're good at social media, they don't know where voters live. That's what the legacy parties do. Now also Reform UK have the same skills.
6 votes. There'll be a lot of fingers gnawed to the bone, no doubt, in Reform HQ. Chris Hope, thank you. Stick with us. Let's bring in the voice now of somebody from the political left, and I'm joined, delighted to say, by the spokesperson for Momentum in the studio, Martin Abrams. Martin, welcome to the studio. Pleasure to have your company. You posted something fascinating on social media earlier on, and that is your understanding of why you believe the Labour Party have done so badly, because they're trying to act like Nigel Farage.
Well, in many respects, Keir Starmer and the Labour Party have tried to out-reform reform, and particularly in the Runcorn and Helsby by-election, where the candidate, put out a petition to, to shut down the local asylum seeker hotel, as she described it. If people want to pander to that kind of sentiment, generally voters will vote for the party that already exists. Reform already exists. So, Labour need to be standing up for Labour Party values. And they need, in my opinion, they need to go back to basics and look at things that are popular in this country, like public ownership of public services, standing up for the vulnerable and, reducing inequality. One of the first things that Keir Starmer did when he became Prime Minister was scrap the winter fuel allowance. And I'm a local councillor.
Martin, I need to interrupt you, I'm afraid, because we can now cross to Doncaster, where the local council election results are being announced.
William Brooke, Reform UK, 1,577. Taylor, Terry, the Conservative Party candidate, 291. The number of ballot papers rejected was as follows: want of an official mark, 0. Voting for more candidates than the voter was entitled to, 0. Writing or a mark by which the voter could be identified, 0. Being unmarked or wholly void for uncertainty, 10. Rejected in part, a total number of rejected votes of 10. The electorate was 11,942. The turnout was 30.55%. And I do hereby declare that Jason Vernon Charity, Rachel Ann Reid, William Brooke Shaw are duly elected. Congratulations.
Okay, that was just one of the wards there in Doncaster Council. We're expecting multiple wards, of course, across the town to come in. That was just one of them. Chris Hope's going to do a bit of delving into the data. Meanwhile, let's get back to our previous guest that we had there, Martin Abrams. Martin, you were saying some people will be scratching their heads at the notion that Sir Keir Starmer, you would claim, is behaving like Nigel Farage. A lot of people wish he would. Control the borders, protect the British working classes, stick up for patriots, make life more affordable. That isn't what Keir Starmer is doing, and that's why Labour lost.
Well, in many respects, they have been pandering to that sentiment, but I think it also goes back to the fact that they are often attacking some of the most vulnerable in society. So the first act that Keir Starmer did was pretty much scrap the winter fuel allowance for pensioners, and then allow that debate to carry on over the summer without any other news in the headlines. And then he's now cutting personal independence payments for some of the most disabled people in the country. And that gives a kind of sense that Labour is not standing up for the most vulnerable in society. And there's palpable anger out there, Martin. I've spoke to people on the doorstep a lot, and there is palpable anger out there at the moment. The trust in politicians is at an all-time low. If a political party is going to come in and be elected, on a manifesto of change, that was the buzzword that we heard all along, change, and then, revert back to what is essentially Tory austerity that we've just had 14 years of, Martin, that has decimated our public services.
I think now we're getting somewhere. I don't think that the Labour Party are copying reform at all, but I do think there are whiffs of that George Osborne austerity. And certainly, you're absolutely right, that we were hearing out on the ground in Runcorn, Labour voters were astonished that Keir Starmer turned his guns on pensioners. They were astonished that they were cutting disability benefits. Why did they do that? It seems completely un-Labour.
It is inexplicable. I do not have any understanding or reason for why they did that. You know, it's not even going to save that much money in the long run. I think they were trying to look like a government that could take decisions, take the tough decisions. But, cutting winter fuel allowance for pensioners, cutting payments for the most disabled people in our society is not a tough decision, OK? A tough decision would be implementing something like a wealth tax, targeting the richest in society and reducing inequality. Because you know what? That would get a lot of kickback. That would get a lot of pressure from, the establishment here, establishment media. That would be a tough decision. Cutting winter fuel allowance is an easy decision and, what I would argue would be a cowardly decision. And, today, I think these results today show that this is actually the beginning of the end for Keir Starmer's premiership. Less than a year into his premiership, there's going to be a lot of MPs that are going to be looking over their shoulders. I think it was 97 MPs in the last general election that were elected with Reform in second place. They're going to be looking over their shoulders because they're going to want to preserve their careers and they're going to want the Labour Party to pull something out of the bag and come up with something that will basically put a bit of clear water between Labour and Reform. And at the moment, they're not doing anything. Labour need to go back to what Labour stands for.
All right.
Public ownership of public services, reducing inequality. Let's have a wealth tax. Let's basically pay for public services, our crumbling public services with the richest in society.
Martin.
A 2% tax on the richest billionaires in this country would generate about 24 billion.
Martin Abrams, I don't know what you're drinking. I'll have a pint of it. Well put, superb stuff. Great to have in the studio. Please come back.
Thank you.
Fantastic guest. Martin Abrams, spokesperson for Momentum. Now, we just had those results come in from Doncaster. Have we now got our next guest? No, we are now going to a short break because coming up, we'll be crossing back to Hull as GB News has been speaking to the newly elected mayor, the former boxing champion, Luke Campbell, just landed a glove on the chin of the political establishment. That's next with me, Martin Daubney on GB News, Britain's News Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
We have a royal invitation for you this Bank Holiday Monday.
It's VE Day. We're going to be here at Buckingham Palace from dawn till dusk and at street parties all across the country.
Join us for the pomp, the pageantry, the marches and the dramatic fly-past.
A day when we can all feel proud to be British. VE Day all day Monday and throughout next week. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's News Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 5:23 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Well, joining us now is GB News' Yorkshire and Humber reporter Anna Riley, who's been speaking to the newly elected mayor for Hull and East Yorkshire, Luke Campbell. Anna, welcome to the show. We saw the count a moment ago. Of course, a political novice, a great fighter of yesteryear. Now he's in the political ring. Tell us more.
That's right, Martin. Yes, Hull's very own Luke Campbell has won the race to become the brand new mayor for Hull and East Yorkshire. He won with around 11,000 votes ahead of the Lib Dems. He had a 35% vote share with 48,491 votes. Lib Dems' Mike Ross came second with 37,510 votes, a 27% vote share, and in third place was Conservative Anne Handley, followed by Labour's Margaret Pinder, Greens' Kerry Harrison and the Yorkshire Party's Rowan Halstead. So it's very interesting here, Reform to head up Hull and East Yorkshire, because Hull Council is run by the Lib Dems, they've got the majority there, and East Riding of Yorkshire Council is run by the Conservatives with the majority there. So Reform will be heading that up, and wider politically as well, Hull has 3 Labour MPs, and in East Yorkshire they have Conservative MPs. So Reform changing colours here and being the first mayor in the area. So Luke Campbell certainly proud of his achievements. This is what he told me earlier.
I've seen on this, I think there's a massive disconnection between the councils and actual people. You know, there's a lot of decisions always made for the people, but never with the people. So I certainly want to bridge that gap. You know, I want to be used as an ally with the councils and really connect the dots here with that. But, you know, a massive priority is ours is really to improve accountability within the councils as well. You know, there's so many projects that have wasted millions of pounds on, you know, and they've not benefited the communities at all. So there's that element as well.
So what will you do now? What sort of hitting the ground running? What's next?
Well, straight away Tuesday, bank holiday. You know, we're hitting the ground running. We've got meetings set up all day. I'm actually going to meet the combined authority because I've not met any of them yet. So I'll be sitting down with them Tuesday morning, all day long, and just getting a good scope of what they're doing, how it's set up, and what's going from there really. But yeah, I'm excited to get going. I really am.
What do you feel about the turnout and that people put their votes to you for you to win?
I feel very honoured and humbled by everyone trusting me to be the mayor of this region. I'm just a member of our community. You know, I've got brought up, I've came from nothing to something, I've worked hard, and, you know, during my boxing career we inspired the next generation. I really doing that. I want to show people that it's possible, that if you just work hard and anything can happen, and you know, it's so important that I continue on that journey as well. Obviously we're in the world of politics now, but I really want to give back to the communities and put them first, so you know, I can't wait to get going.
And how do you feel about representing Reform and how have done across the country?
Yeah, do you know, I'm obviously super happy. I mean, look at today's been massive for Reform UK. You know, that's you know, it's showing you where the momentum Reform's going. You know, they've got real momentum right now, and you know, everybody's coming on. So yeah, but for me, what I can control in Hull and East Yorkshire I want to fight for these guys here, so that's where I'm at.
And with you not being a politician, with you being a former boxer, you're an Olympic medal winner, how do you think that feeds into heading up this new role? Do you think it'll help you or hinder you?
Do you know what, when you look at it like that, I'm many things. You know, I'm a former athlete, you know, an elite athlete, boxer, discipline, hard work, dedication. I'm a business owner, I'm a father, you know, a family man. You know, I'm excited, I really am. You know, so I've got many things to bring to the table. Obviously, political views and experience, obviously. I see that actually as my strength, because it doesn't matter to me who I work with. Everyone around that table should want one thing, and that's to benefit the people of this region.
Luke Campbell there, the new mayor for Hull and East Yorkshire, saying what he's going to be doing when he starts the role on Tuesday. And certainly the results here feed into the wider results of how well Reform have done across the country. And not far away is the greater Lincolnshire area, where obviously Andrea Jenkins won as well. We had Richard Tice here earlier as well, coming in support of Luke. So yeah, we'll see in the next few days what he does in this new role.
What an astonishing story. A former boxing champion, now the elected mayor for Hull and East Yorkshire, Luke Campbell, about to embark upon the fight of his life. Anna Riley, thank you very, very much for bringing that to us today. Thank you. Now, we've got lots of breaking news from the royal family today, as well as in politics. And we've got some more for you, because Prince Harry has spoken exclusively to the BBC and said that he is devastated over the court ruling today, which lessened his security whilst in this country. And he also said he will not bring his family back to the UK at this point, and the King won't speak to him. Wow, that's quite a royal bombshell. And to tell us more about it, I'm joined by our royal correspondent, Cameron Walker. Cameron, Prince Harry being very outspoken today.
Well, very outspoken, Martin, and to be honest, it is the most deflated I have ever seen the Duke of Sussex in an interview where he speaks very openly and candidly about his views as to why he feels like he has been defeated in this case. I think before I go into exactly the analysis of what he says, I'm just going to show you a clip at home. This is Prince Harry speaking to the BBC.
Yeah, pretty gutted about the decision. We thought it was going to go our way, but it certainly has proven that there was no way to win this through the courts. Wish someone had told me that beforehand. Yeah, the decision has been a surprise as well as not a surprise. Yeah, for the time being, it's impossible for me to take my family back to the UK safely.
So Prince Harry there talking to BBC News. He says the case-by-case basis as to the level of security he is given when he returns temporarily to the UK is insufficient. He says he only gets proper security if his family physically invite him back to the United Kingdom. He also says that his change in status, i.e. not being a working member of the royal family anymore, is, and I quote, irrelevant, because as we've been saying, he says he is still fifth in line to the throne and is always going to have those kind of threats. He mentions Al-Qaeda having a target on his back during that interview. He also alleges that the royal household, courtiers within the royal household, which has been mentioned previously in court documents, are interfering with an independent process into the level of security he gets on RAVEC. That's the Royal and VIP Executive Committee, the Home Office Committee that decides the level of police protection individuals get. Because the royal household is on that committee, Prince Harry says they have a bias against him. He also makes the point that other public figures, including former prime ministers and former secretaries of state, get lifetime security, even if they've only done public service for 4 years or even less in some cases. Liz Truss, for example, gets lifetime security. But he doesn't for some reason, and he wants to know why. But I think what was really extraordinary, Martin, and this is, we have gone to the Home Office for a response. He has called on the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, and the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, to intervene and essentially and basically is pushing them to perhaps change the law here. We have gone to the Home Office, as I said, for a response to that, but as I said, they probably saw that interview at the same time that we did. He also says the reason he is not speaking to the King is because of this change in security status. And he also says he does not know how long the King has left. So it was a pretty extraordinary interview, to be honest, Martin. I'm still taking it in myself.
And Cameron, clearly, you know, this has become a highly politicised story, people taking sides, but we must remember Prince Harry has young children. Like any father, like any parent, he wants them to be safe. And this seems to be a bit of a rock bottom moment, perhaps. There's a realisation that he can't have this double life anymore of not being in the royal family and yet still wanting the full security and the detail. And then as you said earlier, the extraordinary situation, Cameron Walker, where Prince Harry is taking the King's government to court and the King not speaking to him. We must remember at the heart of this, there's a human story that's hurt.
Yeah, and he makes the point again that he doesn't want history to repeat itself, perhaps alluding to the death of his mother, Diana, Princess of Wales, in a car crash. And he does make the point that he will not bring Meghan, his wife, Duchess of Sussex, or his 2 children back to the UK with the current level of security. He describes this whole situation as a good old-fashioned establishment stitch-up. The reason he brought up the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, and Yvette Cooper is he says there has been a change in government since that initial decision was taken. So perhaps he's trying his chances with the Labour government. But he also makes the point that the King couldn't intervene, but the King could perhaps instruct his courtiers to remove themselves from this committee so a truly independent process can take place. That appears to be what Prince Harry is calling for now. He also says that, because we've talked a lot about money, Martin, and taxpayers-funded security, of course, and whether he should be entitled to it now that he's no longer a working member of the royal family. There's been this £20 million figure that's been battered around a bit over the last few years as to how much it costs to secure Prince Harry. He says that figure has been grossly exaggerated by British tabloids and the British press. We have gone, as I say, to Buckingham Palace for a right of reply on this. We have also gone to the Home Office and Downing Street for a right of reply. So if we do get any response from any of those parties involved, we will bring that to you. But just in summary, Martin, an incredibly deflated Prince Harry there, who clearly is very paranoid about the safety of himself and his family. But of course, we don't know a lot of the detail. We don't know a lot of the evidence because it has to be heard behind closed doors because it's about issues of national security.
And I wonder, it's an extraordinary moment, is it not, that a prince, the son of a king, will go to a prime minister and a home secretary, and if you like, circumnavigate the head of state, his own father, to try and get a resolution. The Crown is meant to be undeniably apolitical. To reach out to a Prime Minister, this is unprecedented. I've never heard anything like it.
It is absolutely extraordinary, Martin, bearing in mind Prince Harry's fifth in line to the throne and is calling on the Prime Minister of this country to intervene, essentially. He says that the decision was made by royal prerogative, i.e. he was always going to lose this legal case because the law simply wasn't there, and because there were senior courtiers on that committee, they could bypass, essentially, the laws of this land, which is why he's calling on the government to intervene. But as you say, King Charles is the apolitical head of state, and as Prince Harry says, they are not talking because of this decision, because of this battle, because the King cannot be seen to be involved in this case or intervening in this case, because he is head of state, it's his government, it is his court, and clearly that would cause a constitutional crisis if he even began to try and intervene, which is why there is, unfortunately, this gap, and Prince Harry cannot talk to his father until this is resolved. But it is incredibly sad, Martin, because, you know, the King is 76, he still has cancer, he still has a weekly cycle of cancer treatment, and as Prince Harry just pointed out on the record on national television, he doesn't know how long his father has left. And
Cameron Walker, it's just an incredible story. As you said, there's so much detail to try and get your head around in real time. It really, really is an incredible story. Thank you very much for bringing it to us, Cameron Walker. Wow. Let's get some more reaction to this now, because I'm joined by the royal commentator, Richard Fitzwilliams. Richard, welcome to the show. A huge amount of information to take in there. This is unprecedented. A prince loses a court appeal, and we find out he's not even talking to his own father. He won't speak to me, is the direct quotation. And now the prince is going to the Prime Minister to intervene. This is extraordinary.
Well, I mean, I think we've got a situation, as you say, is absolutely unprecedented, but I think he's got tremendously over-emotional. There's no doubt, of course, where this comes from. One has to be frank, it's to do with the tragedy of Princess Diana's death, which has still haunted him, and indeed he believes that he's under threat. It could be Al-Qaeda, it could be right-wing extremists, it could be paparazzi or whatever, and he sees the danger to himself and his family. Regarding anything that's constitutionally weird, you're quite right. I mean, the whole thing is bizarre. He's fifth in line to the throne, for goodness sake, and this is a case against the Home Office, and Ravek have decided that it's on a case-by-case basis, because the Sussexes knew perfectly well when they stepped down from full-time royal engagements and went their own way, they lose automatic security. In my opinion, there was a case for him having VIP status, but it's been decided that that won't be so. And now we know in a deeply emotional, I mean, he says he's devastated, talks about not communicating, he and his father not speaking. I mean, there's no precedent anywhere for this. And as for involving the Prime Minister, I mean, that's simply ridiculous. But what you can see is somebody who appears to be rather out of touch with a certain amount of reality. And I don't mean to be particularly unkind, but I'm referring specifically to the Daily Telegraph headline on the front page recently, which said that Harry believed that this was some form of ploy, that taking away his automatic police protection that the palace were using to prevent him and Meghan from leaving full-time royal duties. I mean, that is clearly nonsensical as I understand it. And then we were told that the evidence he'd heard in camera was what influenced him in that decision. But since we don't know what that is, I can't judge. But it's all extraordinary. And I think, you know, he wants reconciliation. Well, the one thing he must surely understand is that if he wants any form of reconciliation, he shouldn't do it through the press or through any news media. He should do it privately. And the Sussexes just don't seem to understand that. It's quite bizarre.
And Richard, isn't there something else here? There's a grubbiness to this. And what I mean by that, this is about money. This security costs a lot of money, and the taxpayer ostensibly is being asked to stump up, and the court ruling has said no. So this intervention to go to the Prime Minister, to go to the Home Secretary, is basically asking them to sign a cheque for their security, at which point it becomes a political decision. It just seems extraordinary that a prince, let's be honest about this, is going to a Prime Minister, with his begging bowl, trying to get the state to pick up his security. And that would cause, surely, huge embarrassment to his father, the King.
Well, it does seem to me that he's deluded on one issue, and this, in fact, was rejected. He thought that it was possible for him, he wanted to pay for security himself. Now, if that was the case, if the police were, so to speak, figures for hire by rich individuals, I mean, it would be a completely ridiculous situation. So it's this line of thinking. He's thinking along the wrong paths. You wonder who on earth is advising him. It is quite amazing, and you wonder what is going to happen next, for example. I mean, will Lily and Archie ever see their royal cousins? Or will they see them perhaps in Portugal, where Eugenie and her husband and two children are based part of the time? I mean, that is a possibility. Or indeed, when Invictus comes to Birmingham in a couple of years, Will Harry be over, or will he prefer, as apparently he reportedly did, a hotel to a palace when one was apparently offered? It's a very, very erratic way of handling things. And of course, he's recently had the setback, which has not been explained. We look forward to see what the Charity Commission say about Sentebale. Invictus, yes, but if only he was properly advised and thought things through and left the media out of it if he really wants reconciliation.
Richard, another thing here is that this could become politically ugly. We have a Labour Party in government. The Labour Party has had, how should we put it, a fractious history with the royalty. There are many people, perhaps within the Labour movement, who would rather be Republican. We know there are people who are anti-monarchists who are elected representatives of the Labour Party as we speak. So to make this an appeal to a Labour Prime Minister also opens up a huge conversation about the monarchy itself, about getting rid of the monarchy, about the price of the monarchy. Why should we pay for them? They're sponging off us, all that horrible stuff that the anti-monarchists use. Surely Prince Harry is handing that section of Britain an open goal to attack them.
I don't think that a Labour Party will go down the road you've suggested, but what will happen, has happened actually, because most specifically of the destructive attacks on the monarchy by the Sussexes, and of course we had the interview on Oprah, we had, as you know, the Harry and Meghan 6-part series for Netflix, which did so well financially for them. They had Harry's memoir Spare. All of that has cost the monarchy a great deal of support, especially among young people and also some, I think, in the Commonwealth. And it's only relatively recently that, in fact, we've been seeing in the United States, in The Hollywood Reporter, in Vanity Fair and so on, we have South Park put a skit up about their attitudes to privacy and so on. But this whole area, yes, it's very difficult when people go rogue, and the Sussexes went rogue, and they did so callously on Oprah beginning. You'll remember how it aired when Prince Philip was in hospital, and shortly afterwards he died. I mean, the royal family haven't forgotten all this, but it's very difficult indeed for King Charles, because anything the Sussexes do, one thing it does do, and that's attract vast amounts of publicity, and he cannot resist making appeals to the BBC, say, I mean, anything the king was to say privately might conceivably, I gather there's a possibility that he might appeal to the Supreme Court, or he has that option. Well, if he has that option, he met the king, and the king said something that could be quoted.
Richard, I just need to cut you off there momentarily. Please stay with us, though, because I've just been told we have another clip to show GB News viewers of that extraordinary BBC interview with Prince Harry. Here it is.
There are decisions that have been made. There are things that have happened since 2016, especially, throughout my whole life, but let's just stick since 2016, there are things that have happened that I can now forgive. I have moved past that. I can forgive my family's involvement, my father's, my brother, and my stepmother. I can forgive the press to a large extent for so many things that have happened. What I'm struggling to forgive, and what I will probably always struggle to forgive, is that a decision that was made in 2020 that affects my every single day, and that is knowingly putting me and my family in harm's way. Everybody knew that it was putting us at risk in 2020, and hoped that me knowing that risk would force us to come back. But then when you realise that that didn't work, do you not want to just keep us safe? Whether you're the government, whether you're the royal household, whether you're my dad, my family, despite all of our differences, do you not want to just ensure our safety? And I'm calling for, the Home Secretary and the government to do a review of RAVEC. And I'm also asking for an R&B assessment that I haven't received since 2019.
It's just an astonishing revelation. Let's return now to our royal correspondent, Cameron Walker. Cameron, the detail just keeps pouring out. Prince Harry there saying, I forgive the press. I forgive my stepmother, the Queen Camilla, reopening old wounds here on national television the day a court ruling lands. Cameron, this is astonishing.
Well, yeah, and he appears very defeated and deflated, doesn't he, Martin, in that particular interview? I mean, just to clarify a few of the points he made in that clip, the decision he was talking about in 2020 was the decision to downgrade his security. He says in another part of the interview that one day in 2020 he scored the highest in terms of royal family member most at risk, and overnight he was suddenly the lowest and his security was taken away. And RMB stands for Risk Management Board, which he claims every other member of the royal family gets once a year, every year, an independent process where they assess the level of risk each member of the royal family is facing. He says he has not had that since 2020 and stepping back as a working member of the royal family. And he says as long as the royal household is on that committee, he's never going to get it. But he does call for that he wants reconciliation with his father, the king, and with his family. He says he's going to accept that a lot of members of his family will not forgive him for writing his bombshell memoir, Spare. I suspect Prince William may well be one of those people who Prince Harry suggests would not forgive him. But just to pause momentarily here, and just to say, we don't know the level of risk Prince Harry is currently facing. In open court, we have heard about the Al-Qaeda threat. A lot of the particulars and the evidence was all heard behind closed doors. So we don't know if Prince Harry is exaggerating the level of risk he has, or he is very much telling the truth and there are genuine, credible threats against the fifth in line to the throne. And therefore, the question comes back to, for the British public and the royal household and the government, should we be protecting somebody who is the king's son, whose grandchildren are sixth and seventh in line of the throne, but is no longer a working member of the royal family, and therefore is he entitled to taxpayer-funded police protection? It's such a tricky balancing act, and that is the point of RAVEC, isn't it, Martin? The role is to assess the level of risk, and obviously Prince Harry feels that's inadequate. And as I said, we are waiting for the Home Office to respond to God, it's extraordinary, isn't it? The King's son calling on the Home Secretary and the Prime Minister to intervene in this, and of course the King also obviously cannot speak to his son. Prince Harry says he will not speak to him because of all of this going on.
I've got to say, Cameron Walker, we're being absolutely bombarded with comments from GB News viewers here. Helen O'Driscoll here sums it up by saying, is there no end to Harry's sense of entitlement? The last time Harry was in the UK, he was so worried about his safety that he flew straight into a war zone in Ukraine. Enough of this nonsense already. It's time we stopped indulging it. Cameron Walker, stick with us, because I want to cross now to the royal correspondent Jenny Bond for more reaction to this. Jenny, welcome to the show. We're just trying to get a head around the fact this astonishing interview with the BBC, Prince Harry pouring his heart out, but involving the Prime Minister, involving the Home Secretary. What's going on? Has he lost his mind?
I think it's a terribly sad state of affairs. You could see that Harry is absolutely bristling with anger and with emotion and with mistrust. That was what came across to me more than anything. He does not trust, I don't think he trusts his family. He certainly doesn't trust the royal household. And he's embittered by that. And he repeats that he felt that really the household were trying to trap him and his family into staying in the UK. It is another jaw-dropping moment in the royal saga, I have to say. These come along with incredible regularity these days. And I think one thing that stood out to me is he says, the other side of one in keeping me unsafe, as if there is some kind of conspiracy within this country to try to keep him unsafe. It's a very, very sad state of affairs, and I don't think it's going to help any form of reconciliation, which he says he wants.
And Jenny, I was just speaking to a previous guest about this. Now opens up a whole can of worms about the role of politics and the Crown. To directly appeal to a Prime Minister gives them the opportunity to open up a whole conversation about the validity, the value, the point of the royal family. That's not the kind of thing that a prince should be handing to the press or to the opponents of the monarchy, is it?
No, I mean, it is absolutely a bombshell interview. And to call on, quite formally call on Yvette Cooper to name her and the Prime Minister to look at this again. He said that this was the battle that meant the most to him. And it clearly does. I mean, to give an interview like this is extraordinary and very fast reaction. I mean, I don't know what time it was in Los Angeles, but 8 o'clock in the morning. I don't know when the interview was set up, but it seems quite a knee-jerk reaction, really, one born of anger and, as he says, devastation and gutted. I'm surprised. I didn't think it was going to go this way. It's now impossible for me for the time being, he did say for the time being, to return to my homeland, my children. I cannot bring my children to my homeland. I mean, at times he looked to me quite close to tears, actually. He's really torn up inside about this. And I don't know whether he will look back and think his words were wise or unwise, or whether he will take this battle further, because he could try to take this to the Supreme Court. But it sounds to me today as if he thinks this is the end of the, well, I don't know, is it the end of the road? He's now calling on the government to get involved. Perhaps he is going to go on and on fighting this battle.
We have a quick 30 seconds before we hand over to our next presenter, Michelle Dewberry. Jenny Bond, have you ever seen anything like this in all of your heritage and experience of commenting on the royal family?
Yes, I have. Yes, I could just mention Diana's Panorama. We could mention Andrew's Newsnight. This is another interview that will go down in the annals of royal disasters.
It's just incredible. But the thing I have grave concern about is opening that conversation about the politics, separation of politics from the crown. This is now going to open a whole conversation about why should we pay for the royal family? And Harry has brought that problem to the King's door, a man who's still recovering from cancer. It's incredible.
It is, and I say he may view some of his words to be unwise, but I think he is speaking from his heart and from his soul, perhaps not from his head, because this is something that he has said he's prepared to go to the wire on.
OK, thank you very much. We have to leave you there. It's always a pleasure to get your expertise. Jenny Bond, thank you for joining us on an incredible day in royal and politics. Thank you very much. Up next, it's Jubes & Co. at 6 p.m. and that is TV royalty. That's next, Michelle Dewberry. But first, here's your weather.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers. Sponsors of weather on GB News.
Afternoon, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Yes, the weather is on the change for the weekend, but for most places, still a decent weekend. Not much rain around, many places seeing some sunny spells, but it will be a lot cooler. But it has been exceptionally warm this week. The warmth and humidity just sparking one or two isolated but heavy showers across parts of southern England. They'll fade through the evening. We'll keep some showery rain across northern and western Scotland as the winds start to switch direction, coming in more from the north, so bringing a cooler feel here. Still quite a warm night across the south. Could turn quite murky around some of the coasts in southwest England. Some mist and low cloud into parts of East Anglia too. It should steadily clear on Saturday morning. The showers, though, will continue to feed into northern Scotland, and as this wind continues to pick up from the north, that will be introducing ever colder feel to the day. A chilly start across the north coast of Northern Ireland too. Quite thick cloud across Northern Ireland. A few showers likely here. Still a lot of sunshine across England and Wales, but as I said, quite murky around some of the coasts in the southeast and East Anglia. And there will be some showers over the Channel Islands. Just the threat that these showers could just get into the far south of England at times, especially on Saturday morning. So there is the chance of a shower or two here. Certainly a few showers will feed into northeastern Scotland, and that breeze will bring a real chill here. But actually with some shelter, much of southern Scotland having a decent day. 15, 16, Edinburgh, Glasgow, that'll feel quite pleasant. And still in the south, we could get over 20 Celsius. So yes, nowhere near as warm as it has been, but still, for many, temperatures above average. Sunday will be colder still as that northerly wind really brings the cooler air more widely. Still a lot of fine and sunny weather across the west, a bit more cloud in the east with a few showers, and it really will feel quite fresh on some of those North Sea coasts, I suspect, where temperatures may not get out of single digits. But again, in the south and the west, we should get into the mid-teens. So a lot of dry weather, just a lot cooler.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. In Leeds, roadworks close an M1 northbound entry slip lane at junction 42. In Knowsley, all M62 westbound